Hello, dreamers and cosmic explorers. Welcome to a journey that will take you deeper than any telescope can see, further than any spacecraft can travel. Tonight, we're venturing into the parallel universes that exist within you. Picture this. It's September 1865, and a German chemist named August Kekulé sits slumped in his chair after hours of failed experiments. He's been trying to understand the structure of benzene for months, and every theory has led nowhere. Exhausted, he drifts into sleep, and then something extraordinary happens. In his dream, he sees atoms dancing, twisting, forming chains like snakes. Suddenly, one snake seizes its own tail, forming a perfect ring. Kekulé jolts awake. In that single dream, he's just solved one of chemistry's greatest mysteries. The benzene ring structure he envisioned that night would become the foundation of modern organic chemistry, changing science forever. But here's what should make you pause. Was that dream just random neurons firing? Or did his sleepy mind access a parallel reality where solutions already exist, waiting to be discovered? If you're ready to explore the 100 most mind-bending facts about dreams and discover the infinite world sleeping inside your consciousness, go ahead and hit that like button. And subscribe, because over the next couple of hours, we're going to challenge everything you thought you knew about the 1/3 of your life you spend asleep. Trust me, you'll never look at your pillow the same way again. Fact 1. Every single night, whether you remember it or not, you experience between 4 to 6 distinct dreams. That's roughly 2,000 dreams per year. Over a lifetime, you'll spend approximately 6 full years in dream worlds. 6 years. That's more time than most people spend earning a college degree, learning a language, or mastering a musical instrument. Yet for most of us, these thousands of hours remain completely unexplored territory. The ancient Egyptians understood something we're only now rediscovering through neuroscience. They called dreams the letters from the gods, and built entire temples dedicated to dream interpretation. The Greeks had their Asclepius temples, where sick people would sleep overnight, believing dreams would bring healing visions. Aboriginal Australians have spent over 65,000 years building their entire spiritual framework around something they call the dream time, a parallel reality that exists simultaneously with our waking world. These ancient civilizations weren't primitive or superstitious. They were onto something profound. They recognized that dreams aren't just meaningless static, but a gateway to another form of consciousness. Fact 2. Here's something that will blow your mind. Your brain doesn't actually distinguish between dreaming and reality at a neurological level. When you dream about running, the same motor cortex regions light up as when you're actually running. Dream about a conversation? Your language centers activate identically. See a face in your dream? Your fusiform face area responds as if that person is really standing in front of you. In 2013, researchers at the ATR Computational Neuroscience Laboratories in Kyoto, Japan, used fMRI brain scans to literally decode dream content. They could predict what people were dreaming about with 60% accuracy by reading their brain patterns. They'd wake subjects up during early sleep, ask what they saw, then use machine learning to correlate brain activity with dream content. After analyzing over 200 dream reports, their computers could identify whether someone was dreaming about cars, furniture, or people just by looking at their brain scans. Think about what this means. Your dreams create such authentic neural realities that machines can detect them. You're not just imagining these experiences, you're genuinely living them at a brain level. Fact 3. But here's the devastating part. Approximately 95% of your dreams are forgotten within 10 minutes of waking up. That's not an exaggeration. In 1967, researcher David Foulkes conducted studies at the University of Wyoming, where he woke participants at different stages of sleep and asked them to immediately report their dreams. The longer the delay between waking and reporting, the more dream content vanished. After just 8 minutes, Most subjects couldn't recall any dream details whatsoever. Why does this happen? The answer lies in a brain chemical called norepinephrine. During REM sleep, when most vivid dreaming occurs, your brain essentially switches off norepinephrine production. This chemical is crucial for transferring short-term memories into long-term storage. Without it, your dreams remain trapped in a temporary buffer, like a computer file that never gets saved. The moment you wake up and norepinephrine floods back into your system, it's like hitting delete on everything you just experienced. Imagine spending 6 years of your life traveling through extraordinary landscapes, meeting fascinating people, solving complex puzzles, only to have those memories erased the moment your journey ends. That's what's happening to you right now, night after night. Fact 4. Yet some cultures retain far more dream memories than others, and the reason has nothing to do with biology. It's all about attention. The Sinoy people of Malaysia traditionally began every morning with family dream discussions. Children were encouraged to remember and share their dreams from the youngest ages. Studies of the Sinoy found that adults could recall multiple dreams per night in vivid detail, something most Westerners consider impossible. Similarly, research on contemporary dream journaling shows that people who write down their dreams immediately upon waking increase their recall from less than 1 dream per week to 4 or 5 dreams per week within just 2 months. Your brain learns what you value. Pay attention to your dreams, and suddenly they become memorable. Ignore them, and they slip away like water through fingers. Fact 5. Now, let's address the parallel universe concept directly, because this isn't just poetic language. In your waking life, you experience one linear timeline. You're in one place with one set of circumstances making sequential decisions. But in dreams, last night, you might have been simultaneously a child again, in your current home, which somehow also resembled your childhood house, talking to someone who was your friend, but also your colleague, but also someone you've never met. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker from UC Berkeley describes dreams as overnight therapy, where your brain creates impossible combinations of memories, emotions, and scenarios. Your hippocampus, which stores memories, becomes hyperactive during REM sleep, firing off random memory fragments. Your prefrontal cortex, which normally provides logical oversight, goes quiet. Without that rational filter, your brain makes connections that would never occur during waking thought. This is where the parallel universes emerge. Each dream constructs an entirely coherent reality with its own physics, logic, and narrative rules. You're not experiencing mental chaos. You're experiencing alternative frameworks of existence, where different rules apply, where time bends, where identities merge and separate. Fact 6. Consider this remarkable case from Stanford University's sleep lab. A lucid dreamer, someone trained to become conscious within dreams, was asked to perform a specific eye movement pattern once he realized he was dreaming. The researchers, led by Stephen LaBerge in 1981, monitored his eye movements from outside using electrodes. At 4:47 a.m., the sensors detected the predetermined pattern. The subject was sending a deliberate signal from inside his dream. For the first time in scientific history, someone had established two-way communication between the dream world and the waking world. The boundary between realities became permeable. LaBerge repeated this experiment hundreds of times with multiple subjects. Dreamers could signal when they became lucid, when they completed tasks, even count in their dreams with measurable time intervals matching real time. They proved that consciousness persists across the boundary, that you can stand with one foot in each reality simultaneously. Fact 7. Here's what most people get wrong about dreams. They think dreams are just your brain randomly replaying the day's events, a kind of mental screensaver with no real purpose. This is completely backwards. Dreams are intensely selective and purposeful. Research from Harvard Medical School by Robert Stickgold demonstrated that your brain doesn't replay events exactly as they happened. Instead, It extracts the emotional core, the abstract patterns, the underlying meaning. In one famous experiment, subjects learned a complex maze task during the day. That night, those who dreamed about mazes, but not specifically about the experimental maze, improved their performance by 10 times more than those who didn't dream about mazes at all. Your dreaming brain isn't recording, it's analyzing, abstracting, finding the deeper structure beneath surface experiences. It's building a parallel understanding of reality based not on literal facts, but on emotional truths and pattern recognition. Fact 8. The ancient Greeks had a word for the state between waking and sleeping, hypnagogia. They considered it sacred, a liminal space where humans could briefly perceive truths hidden from ordinary consciousness. Modern neuroscience has validated their intuition. During hypnagogia, your brain waves shift from beta waves associated with active thinking to alpha and theta waves associated with deep relaxation and meditation. Your default mode network, the brain system responsible for self-referential thinking and mind-wandering, becomes extremely active. At the same time, your executive control network, which maintains focused attention, starts to disengage. This creates a unique cognitive state where you're conscious enough to observe your thoughts, but not controlled enough to suppress them. Ideas flow with fluid associations. Salvador Dali, the surrealist painter, deliberately induced hypnagogia by napping while holding a key above a metal plate. As he drifted off, his hand would relax, the key would fall and clang against the plate, waking him just enough to capture the bizarre imagery flooding his mind. Thomas Edison used an almost identical technique, dozing in a chair while holding ball bearings. He called these moments his idea harvests. Both men instinctively understood they were accessing a different mode of consciousness, one where the parallel world of dreams and the linear world of waking thought briefly merged. Fact 9. Now, here's something that should fundamentally change how you think about yourself. Every person you meet in your dreams, every face in the crowd, every stranger who speaks to you is you. Your brain is generating all of them. You're simultaneously the protagonist and every supporting character. You're the hero and the villain, the friend and the stranger, the guide and the obstacle. Psychologist Carl Jung called these dream characters autonomous complexes, semi-independent aspects of your psyche with their own perspectives and agendas. In dreams, you're not alone. You're a population of selves, a committee of consciousness, all existing within the parliament of your mind. Modern neuroscience supports this idea. Different brain regions have different priorities and processing styles. Your amygdala seeks safety. Your reward circuits seek pleasure. Your hippocampus seeks pattern and meaning. During dreams, when executive control relaxes, these systems begin speaking more directly, often personifying themselves as characters in your dream narrative. You are, quite literally, a multiverse of consciousness. Every night, your unified sense of self dissolves into its component parts, and they interact, negotiate, conflict, and cooperate in the theater of your dreams. Fact 10. The ancient Tibetan Buddhists developed an entire practice called dream yoga, based on a profound recognition. They understood that if you're not aware you're dreaming while you're dreaming, how can you be sure you're aware of reality while you're awake? They saw waking life and dream life as two sides of the same illusion, both equally constructed by consciousness. Their practices, documented in texts over 1,000 years old, taught techniques for becoming lucid in dreams, not for entertainment, but for spiritual awakening. Because, they argued, the moment you realize you're dreaming while asleep, you experience a profound shift in perspective. You recognize that your experience, however vivid and convincing, is being generated by your own mind. You're simultaneously the creator and the experiencer of reality. This is the gateway we're standing at right now. Modern science, after centuries of materialism, is arriving at the same place those Tibetan monks reached through meditation. Consciousness doesn't just passively observe reality. It actively constructs it, both awake and asleep. Fact 11. Here's our final fact for this opening section, and it's the most important one. Dreams are not an escape from reality. They're not a shutdown of consciousness. They're an expansion of it. When you sleep, you don't leave the universe. You enter infinite universes, parallel realities where different versions of you explore possibilities, process emotions, solve problems, and experience existence from perspectives your waking mind could never access. Tonight, when you close your eyes, you're not ending your day. You're beginning another kind of existence entirely, one that's been unfolding every night of your life, mostly unremembered and unexplored. 6 years of parallel worlds waiting to be discovered. The question isn't whether these dream worlds exist. They do, as surely as electrical patterns in your neurons exist, as surely as consciousness itself exists. The question is, what happens when you start paying attention to them? So, we've opened the gateway. We've established that dreams aren't random, aren't meaningless, and aren't simply replays of daily life. They're parallel realities where your consciousness explores alternative rules, alternative identities, alternative ways of being. But if dreams are real experiences happening in real time within your brain, we need to understand the architecture. How does your brain actually construct these nightly universes? What's the engineering behind the magic? Let's go deeper into the machinery of dreams and discover the building blocks of these parallel worlds. It's 1952, and a University of Chicago graduate student named Eugene Ozarinsky is watching his 8-year-old son sleep, monitoring his eye movements with primitive electrodes taped near his eyelids. Ozarinsky is documenting sleep patterns for his PhD research, expecting to observe stillness during deep sleep. Instead, around 3 a.m., something impossible happens. His son's eyes begin moving rapidly beneath his closed lids, darting back and forth as if watching a tennis match. The recording equipment nearly breaks from the violent pen movements. Ozarinsky thinks it's a malfunction. He adjusts the equipment and watches again the next night. Same thing. Rapid, coordinated eye movements occurring in rhythmic cycles throughout the night. When he wakes his son during these episodes, the boy reports vivid, detailed dreams. Ozarinsky has just discovered REM sleep, and with it, he's found the architectural blueprint of where dreams are built. The question is, why would evolution design your brain to become more electrically active during sleep than during your most intense waking moments? If you're fascinated by how your brain engineers entire universes every night, make sure you've hit that subscribe button. We're about to dissect the most sophisticated construction project in nature, one that happens inside your skull without you ever lifting a finger. Fact 12. Your sleep isn't a single state. It's a carefully orchestrated journey through 5 distinct stages, cycling approximately every 90 to 120 minutes throughout the night. This discovery, finalized by Nathaniel Kleitman and his team in 1953, revolutionized sleep science. Before this, everyone assumed sleep was just an off switch for consciousness. Here's how the architecture works. Stage 1 is the shallow entry, lasting just 5 to 10 minutes. Your brain waves slow from alert beta waves down to drowsy alpha waves. This is where that sensation of falling sometimes jolts you awake. Stage 2 goes deeper, occupying about 50% of your total sleep time. Your body temperature drops, your heart rate slows, and your brain begins producing sleep spindles, brief bursts of rapid brain waves that look like tiny tornadoes on an EEG readout. Scientists now believe these spindles are actively moving memories from temporary storage into long-term archives. Then come stages 3 and 4, often grouped together as deep sleep or slow wave sleep. Your brain waves become long, slow delta waves, rolling like ocean swells. Your muscles relax completely. This is when your body performs its deepest physical restoration. Growth hormone releases, tissue repairs, immune function strengthens. If you're awakened during deep sleep, you'll feel disoriented and confused, sometimes for several minutes. But then, roughly 90 minutes after you first fell asleep, something extraordinary happens. You enter REM sleep and everything changes. Fact 13. During REM sleep, your brain doesn't rest. It ignites. Neuroimaging studies using PET scans show that your brain's metabolic activity during REM sleep matches or exceeds waking levels. Some regions, particularly your visual cortex, limbic system, and motor cortex, become even more active than when you're awake and alert. Think about the paradox here. Your body is completely paralyzed. You're unconscious to the external world, yet your brain is consuming oxygen and glucose at rates that would normally indicate intense cognitive work. It's like discovering that your parked car is somehow driving itself through invisible highways while sitting motionless in your garage. Dr. Matthew Walker from UC Berkeley describes REM sleep as emotional first aid. He's conducted experiments showing that the emotional intensity of memories decreases after REM sleep, while the factual content remains intact. Volunteers shown disturbing images experienced significantly reduced emotional reactions when viewing the same images after a night of REM-rich sleep. Those deprived of REM sleep showed no decrease in emotional distress. Your brain during REM is essentially running powerful emotional processing programs, stripping the trauma and intensity from memories while preserving the lessons and information. It's performing psychological maintenance that we're only beginning to understand. Fact 14. But here's the detail that reveals the true architectural genius. During REM sleep, your brain deliberately paralyzes your body through a mechanism called REM atonia. Your brainstem sends signals that effectively disconnect your motor cortex from your muscles. The command signals are generated, they travel down your spinal cord, but a specific set of neurons in your pons, a region of your brainstem, actively inhibits them from reaching your muscles. Why? Because without this paralysis, you would physically act out your dreams. We know this because of rare cases where this system fails. People with REM sleep behavior disorder physically enact their dreams, sometimes violently. They might dream of fighting and actually throw punches in their sleep, or dream of running and literally get up and run while still unconscious. There's a documented case from 1986 of a 67-year-old man who dreamed he was playing football. Still asleep, he got up, ran across his bedroom, and crashed into his dresser with enough force to bruise his shoulder. Another patient dreamed of wrestling a deer and woke up on his bedroom floor, having flipped his mattress off the bed frame. Your brain evolved this paralysis system because your dreams are so convincing, so motorically real, that without protection, you would endanger yourself every night. Think about what this implies. Your dreams aren't passive observations. They're full sensory motor simulations, complete experiences that your brain treats as absolutely real. Fact 15. The 90-minute cycle isn't random. It's fundamental to memory consolidation and learning. But here's what's fascinating. The ratio of deep sleep to REM sleep shifts dramatically as the night progresses. In your first sleep cycle, you might spend 45 minutes in deep sleep and only 10 minutes in REM. By your fourth or fifth cycle, near morning, those ratios reverse. You might spend only 10 minutes in deep sleep, but 40 minutes in REM. Your brain is prioritizing different types of processing as the night unfolds. The early night's deep sleep focuses on clearing metabolic waste from your brain through the glymphatic system, consolidating factual memories, and performing physical restoration. The late night's extended REM periods handle emotional processing, creative connections, and complex problem solving. This is why being woken up after just 4 or 5 hours of sleep, even if you feel you got enough rest, leaves you emotionally fragile and creatively dull. You've gotten your deep sleep, but missed the crucial later REM periods where your brain performs its most sophisticated cognitive work. Fact 16. Want to know something that will change how you think about sleep deprivation? When you don't get enough sleep for several nights, your brain doesn't just feel tired. It experiences something called REM pressure, a building neurological drive to enter REM sleep that becomes physiologically irresistible. In experiments during the 1960s, researchers would wake subjects every time they entered REM sleep while allowing them all the other sleep stages. By the fifth night, they had to wake subjects from attempted REM sleep every few minutes. By the 10th night, subjects would fall directly into REM sleep within seconds of closing their eyes, skipping the normal progression through earlier stages entirely. Their brains were so desperate for REM that they hijacked the normal sleep architecture. But here's the disturbing part. These subjects, despite getting 6 to 8 hours of total sleep per night, developed symptoms remarkably similar to psychosis. They experienced hallucinations during waking hours, paranoid thoughts, difficulty concentrating, and emotional volatility. When finally allowed normal sleep, they immediately entered periods of REM rebound, spending dramatically more time in REM than usual for several nights until they'd repaid the deficit. Your brain needs REM sleep the way your lungs need oxygen. Deprive it long enough, and your waking consciousness begins to break down, as if the dream worlds you've been suppressing start bleeding into waking reality. Fact 17. Now, let's look at how bizarre sleep architecture becomes across different species, because this reveals just how fundamental these stages are to consciousness itself. Dolphins and whales have solved a remarkable problem. They're mammals, so they need to breathe air, but they live in water. They can't afford to become fully unconscious or they'd drown. Their solution? Unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. One half of their brain sleeps while the other half stays awake, monitoring the environment and controlling surfacing for breath. Every few hours, they switch sides. But here's what's astonishing. Dolphins don't appear to have REM sleep at all, or if they do, it's so brief that researchers have barely detected it. This raises a profound question. If REM sleep is crucial for emotional processing and memory consolidation in humans, how do dolphins manage? Are their cognitive processes fundamentally different? Or have they evolved alternate mechanisms we don't yet understand? Fact 18. Birds, on the other hand, do experience REM sleep, but in incredibly brief episodes. A sparrow might enter REM for just 5 to 10 seconds at a time. During those brief moments, they become completely immobile, vulnerable to predators. Yet, evolution has preserved this vulnerability, suggesting REM provides something so valuable that it's worth the risk even in tiny doses. Elephants have perhaps the most extreme sleep pattern. They sleep only about 2 hours per night in the wild, with REM periods occurring only every 3 to 4 days. Despite this minimal sleep, elephants maintain complex social structures, excellent memory, and sophisticated problem-solving abilities. They're functioning at high cognitive levels on what would destroy a human brain within days. The fact that sleep architecture varies so wildly across species, yet remains absolutely essential, tells us something profound. The way consciousness process is experienced during sleep is not a bug in the system. It's a fundamental feature of how complex nervous systems operate. Fact 19. Here's a common mistake that costs millions of people the restorative sleep they desperately need. They think that because deep sleep is the most unconscious stage, it must be the most important. They optimize for deep sleep through various tracking apps and supplements, assuming that maximizing delta wave sleep is the goal. But sleep isn't a competition where one stage wins. It's a symphony where each movement serves a distinct purpose. Optimizing for deep sleep at the expense of REM sleep is like deciding your car only needs an engine and doesn't require wheels. Both are essential. The architecture only works when all stages unfold in their natural proportions. A 2019 study from Massachusetts General Hospital found that people who used sleep trackers and became anxious about their sleep metrics actually worsened their sleep quality. They developed what researchers called orthosomnia, a perfectionist obsession with achieving perfect sleep data. Their anxiety about sleep became a source of insomnia, creating a vicious cycle. The lesson? Trust the architecture. Your brain has been refining this system for millions of years. Unless you have a diagnosed sleep disorder, the best thing you can do is create conditions that allow all natural sleep stages to unfold, rather than trying to micromanage the process. Fact 20. Let's talk about what's happening in your brain during REM that makes it so metabolically expensive. During waking hours, your prefrontal cortex, the region behind your forehead responsible for logic, planning, and self-control, acts as your brain's CEO, coordinating and filtering information from other regions. But during REM sleep, something remarkable happens. Your prefrontal cortex goes relatively quiet. Meanwhile, your limbic system, the emotional centers of your brain, becomes hyperactive. Your amygdala, which processes fear and emotion, shows activity levels 20 to 30% higher than during waking hours. Your hippocampus, which stores memories, fires in complex patterns, sending fragments of memories throughout your cortex. Without the prefrontal cortex's logical oversight, these memory fragments combine in impossible ways. You're in your childhood home, which is also your current office, talking to your deceased grandmother, who is also your boss. And none of this seems strange because the part of your brain that normally says, wait, this doesn't make logical sense, has temporarily clocked out. This isn't a malfunction, it's a feature. By removing logical constraints, your brain can make connections that would never occur during rational waking thought. This is the neurological foundation of creative problem solving in dreams. Fact 21. There's a specific neurochemical change during REM sleep that's absolutely crucial to understanding dreams. During waking hours and non-REM sleep, your brain produces a chemical called norepinephrine, which among other functions, helps you respond to stress and encode strong memories. But during REM sleep, norepinephrine production drops to essentially zero. This is the only time in your entire day when your brain has no norepinephrine. Dr. Matthew Walker's research suggests this absence is critical for emotional healing. Norepinephrine is associated with stress and anxiety. Without it, your brain can reactivate emotional memories without the accompanying stress response. You're essentially experiencing your memories in a neurochemically safe environment, allowing your brain to process trauma and difficult emotions without becoming overwhelmed. This is why sleep deprivation leaves people emotionally raw and reactive. They're accumulating emotional experiences without the nightly processing that strips away the neurochemical stress tags. Think of REM sleep as running your emotional memories through a washing machine that removes the stains of stress while preserving the fabric of the experience itself. Fact 22. Here's our final architectural fact, and it connects directly to the parallel worlds concept we're exploring. During REM sleep, your brain achieves something called temporal binding, where it compresses and expands time in ways that feel completely normal within the dream, but would be impossible in waking reality. Studies where lucid dreamers signal from within dreams using predetermined eye movements have shown that perceived time in dreams roughly matches real time. If you count to 10 in a dream, it takes about 10 seconds in real time. But subjectively, dreams often feel like they span hours or even days. You might dream of a full day at work, a long journey, or an extended conversation, and wake to find only 20 minutes have passed. Your brain is somehow creating the subjective experience of extended time within compressed actual time. It's generating the sensation of duration without requiring the actual duration. This is architecture beyond anything we've achieved artificially. Your brain is a time machine, creating temporal universes that feel completely authentic, despite violating the linear time that governs waking reality. So, now we understand the engineering, 5 stages cycling and 90-minute rhythms, delta waves for restoration. REM for emotional processing and creative synthesis, neurochemical shifts that create safe spaces for confronting difficult memories, temporal binding that makes minutes feel like hours. This is the machinery that builds your parallel worlds every night. But architecture without purpose is just structure. The real question becomes, what is your brain actually constructing during these nightly journeys? What is the function of these elaborately built dream worlds? Because it turns out, your sleeping brain is doing something far more important than you ever imagined. It's not just processing the past, it's architecting your future, building the very foundation of memory, learning, and who you become. Let's explore how dreams literally reshape your mind and construct the person you'll be tomorrow. Picture a college student in Robert Stickgold's lab at Harvard Medical School in the year 2000. She's been playing Tetris for hours, watching colored blocks fall, rotating them, clearing lines. She's never played before today, and her brain is working overtime to master this new skill. That night, as she drifts into sleep, electrodes monitor her brainwaves. Around 2 a.m., researchers gently wake her during stage 2 sleep and ask what she was experiencing. Her answer is bizarre and specific. I was seeing images of blocks falling, rotating, trying to fit them together. But they weren't the Tetris blocks from the game. They were like architectural blocks, building blocks, falling down a construction site. Her brain wasn't replaying the game. It was extracting the abstract concept, the deep pattern beneath the surface, and building something entirely new from it. 3 days later, she returns to play Tetris again. Her improvement is dramatic, far exceeding students who stayed awake or who slept, but didn't dream about falling blocks. Her sleeping brain hadn't just stored the memory, it had rebuilt her neural architecture to master the skill at a fundamental level. If this idea that your dreams are literally reconstructing your brain fascinates you, go ahead and give this video a like, because what we're about to explore will change everything you thought you knew about learning, memory, and why you actually need to sleep to become who you're meant to be. Fact 23. Your hippocampus, a seahorse-shaped structure deep in your brain, is constantly recording your daily experiences like a biological video camera. But it doesn't have unlimited storage. Think of it as a buffer, a temporary holding space. Without sleep, particularly deep non-REM sleep, these recordings would simply overwrite themselves, lost forever. During deep sleep, your hippocampus begins a process called memory replay. It literally refires the same neural patterns that fired during your waking experiences, but in a highly accelerated format. A neural sequence that took 5 minutes during the day might replay in just 10 seconds during sleep. But here's the crucial detail. These replays aren't happening in isolation. Your hippocampus is broadcasting them to your cortex, the outer layer of your brain responsible for long-term storage and integration. Your cortex is learning from these accelerated replays, building permanent neural structures that encode the experience. It's like your hippocampus is a teacher showing a film to your cortex, but playing it at 30 times normal speed, over and over, until the lesson is permanently learned. Without this nightly transfer, you would wake up every morning essentially reset to who you were yesterday, unable to grow or change. Fact 24. In 2007, researchers at the University of Lübeck in Germany conducted an elegant experiment that proved dreams don't just consolidate memories, they actively transform them. Subjects learned the location of hidden objects in a complex virtual maze. One group was allowed to sleep afterward. Another group was kept awake for the same duration. The sleeping group didn't just remember the locations better. When tested, they demonstrated understanding of the maze's underlying structure. They could find shortcuts they'd never taken before. They understood spatial relationships they'd never explicitly learned. Their dreams had extracted abstract principles from concrete experiences. The control group who stayed awake could remember specific paths they had taken, but they couldn't generalize or improvise. They'd stored the information, but hadn't learned the deeper pattern. Sleep had transformed rote memory into genuine understanding. Dr. Jan Bourne, who led the study, described it as the difference between having photographs of a city and actually understanding the city's layout. Dreams build the map, not just the pictures. Fact 25. Now, let's talk about something called dream incubation, a technique that dates back to ancient Egypt and Greece but is now being validated by modern neuroscience. The concept is deceptively simple. By focusing on a specific problem or question before sleep, you can influence your dream content and harness your sleeping brain's problem-solving abilities. In 1993, Harvard psychologist Deirdre Barrett conducted a systematic study of dream incubation. She asked college students to select a personal or academic problem, visualize it before bed, and focus on it as they fell asleep. Students kept dream journals and recorded any dreams related to their chosen problem. The results were remarkable. About half of the students dreamed about their problem, and of those, 70% felt their dreams contained solutions or insights. Independent judges, who didn't know which problem students had selected, agreed that many of the dream solutions were genuinely useful and creative. One student was struggling with a difficult organic chemistry synthesis. He dreamed of molecular structures assembling themselves like living organisms, flowing together in patterns he hadn't considered. When he woke, he immediately sketched the reaction pathway from his dream. It worked in the lab the next day. This isn't magic, it's strategic use of your brain's nightly processing. You're essentially giving your sleeping brain a specific puzzle to work on, and it applies its unique pattern matching and creative association capabilities to that focused problem. Fact 26. But here's where dream incubation becomes even more fascinating. In 2020, researchers at MIT developed a device called Dormio, designed to interface with the hypnagogic state, that threshold between waking and sleep we discussed earlier. The device monitors biosignals like muscle tone and heart rate to detect when someone enters stage 1 sleep, then plays an audio cue with a specific word or concept. In one experiment, they prompted subjects with the word tree as they fell asleep. When subjects were woken minutes later and asked to report their thoughts, an overwhelming majority described tree-related imagery: forests, branches, roots, climbing trees, trees in different seasons. The audio cue had been incorporated into their dream content. Then researchers let these subjects complete creative tasks related to trees. Those who had been prompted with tree during sleep onset showed significantly more creative and varied responses compared to control groups who heard the word while fully awake or not at all. Your sleeping brain isn't just receptive to suggestion. It's actively seeking inputs to incorporate into its nightly processing. This opens extraordinary possibilities for targeted learning and creative problem solving. Fact 27. Let's examine exactly what happens to emotionally charged memories during sleep, because this reveals one of dream's most vital functions. When you experience something emotionally intense, an argument, a triumph, a frightening moment, your amygdala, your brain's alarm system, tags that memory with emotional markers. Without sleep, these emotional tags remain at full strength. The memory stays hot, triggering the same stress response every time you recall it. But during REM sleep, something remarkable occurs. Your brain reactivates the memory, but does so in the absence of norepinephrine, that stress chemical we mentioned earlier. It's like watching a recording of a scary movie with the sound off and the lights on. You're experiencing the content, but not the fear. Your brain is systematically separating the factual information from the emotional charge. Matthew Walker's research team at UC Berkeley demonstrated this by showing subjects emotionally disturbing images, then scanning their brains while they viewed the same images 12 hours later. Those who slept between viewings showed significantly reduced amygdala activation. Those who stayed awake showed no reduction. Sleep had literally cooled down the emotional heat of the memories. This is why the folk wisdom, "sleep on it," is neuroscientifically sound. Time alone doesn't heal emotional wounds. Sleep does. Fact 28. There's a specific type of memory consolidation that only happens during sleep, and it's something most people have never heard of: procedural memory consolidation. This is memory for skills, for how to do things rather than what happened. When you learn to play guitar, ride a bike, or master a tennis serve, your brain is building procedural memories. These don't feel like memories in the traditional sense. You can't describe them in words very well. They're encoded in motor patterns, in the coordination between your cerebellum, motor cortex, and muscles. In 2002, researchers at Harvard Medical School taught subjects to type a specific sequence of numbers as quickly as possible. After initial training, one group slept, while another stayed awake. Both groups returned 12 hours later to test again. The sleep group improved their speed by 20% and their accuracy by 30%. The wake group showed no improvement whatsoever. But here's what's truly fascinating. The improvement correlated specifically with the amount of stage 2 sleep, particularly the late-night stage 2 periods rich in sleep spindles. Those sleep spindles we mentioned earlier aren't just moving memories around. They're actively refining motor skills, trimming unnecessary movements, optimizing neural pathways. Your brain is literally practicing while you sleep, running simulations, perfecting techniques without your conscious involvement. Fact 29. Now, we need to talk about a phenomenon that reveals just how selective your dreaming brain is about what it consolidates. It's called emotional memory prioritization, and it explains why you remember some experiences vividly for decades while forgetting others within hours. Neuroscientist Jessica Payne at the University of Notre Dame conducted studies showing that emotionally significant elements of experiences are preferentially consolidated during sleep, while neutral background details fade. Subjects viewed complex scenes containing emotional elements, like a car crash, embedded in neutral contexts, like an ordinary street. After sleep, subjects remembered the emotional elements with remarkable clarity, but forgot many surrounding details. Those kept awake showed more uniform memory, remembering emotional and neutral elements equally poorly. Your sleeping brain is curating your experiences, deciding what matters enough to permanently encode and what can be discarded. Dreams aren't recording your life. They're editing it, creating a highlight reel of what's emotionally and cognitively significant. This has profound implications. Your sense of self, your autobiography, your personality. All of it is shaped by which memories your dreams choose to preserve and which they allow to fade. You are, in a very literal sense, being authored by your dreams. Fact 30. Here's a common mistake that undermines learning and memory consolidation: pulling all-nighters to study for exams. Students convince themselves they're maximizing preparation by sacrificing sleep for extra study time. The neuroscience shows this is catastrophically counterproductive. A 2008 study tracked students preparing for medical school exams. Those who slept less than 6 hours per night in the week before the exam performed significantly worse than those who maintained 7 to 8 hours, even when accounting for total study time. The sleep-deprived students had spent more hours reviewing material, but retained less. Why? Without sleep, the hippocampus becomes saturated. It's like trying to save files to a full hard drive. New information can't be properly encoded because there's no space. Sleep clears that space, transferring older memories to long-term storage and freeing up capacity for new learning. Even more striking, sleeping after learning is more beneficial than sleeping before. A nap after a study session consolidates what you just learned. That's when the real learning happens. The studying provides raw material. Sleep transforms it into knowledge. Fact 31. Let's explore something called targeted memory reactivation, a technique so powerful it sounds like science fiction. Researchers have found that if you pair specific memories with sensory cues during waking hours, then present those same cues during sleep, you can selectively enhance those memories. In a landmark 2013 study at Northwestern University, subjects learned the locations of objects on a computer screen. Each object was paired with a related sound: a cat image with a meow, a kettle with a whistle. While subjects napped, researchers played half of those sounds very quietly, below the threshold of waking them. When subjects woke and were tested, they remembered locations of cued objects significantly better than uncued objects. The sounds during sleep had targeted specific memories for enhancement, like shining a spotlight on certain files to ensure they get priority processing. This technique is now being explored for treating PTSD, enhancing athletic training, and even accelerating language learning. Your sleeping brain is accessible, influenceable, trainable. The parallel world of dreams isn't sealed off. It has a door, and we're learning to open it. Fact 32. There's something profoundly important about the sequence in which sleep stages unfold, and disrupting that sequence has devastating effects on memory. People who take certain medications that suppress REM sleep, like some antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs, often report feeling like they're living in a fog, unable to integrate experiences or learn effectively. Similarly, alcohol, which many people use as a sleep aid, dramatically disrupts sleep architecture. While alcohol might help you fall asleep faster, it suppresses REM sleep during the first half of the night. You might get your deep sleep, but you're missing crucial REM periods where emotional processing and creative integration occur. The result? You wake up feeling like you slept, but you haven't gained the psychological and cognitive benefits of genuine restorative sleep. It's like eating food that fills your stomach but provides no nutrition. Your brain hasn't been fed. Understanding this should change how we think about sleep. It's not about duration alone. It's about protecting the complete architectural cycle that allows your brain to perform all its nightly maintenance. Fact 33. Here's our final fact about dreams and memory, and it ties everything together. Your hippocampus doesn't just replay memories during sleep. It replays them in the wrong order, backward, fragmented, remixed with other memories from different times and contexts. This seems chaotic, but it's deliberate. By recombining memories in novel ways, your brain discovers connections it would never find through logical analysis. The argument you had yesterday gets mixed with a conflict you witnessed years ago and a scene from a movie you watched last month. Your brain identifies the common thread, the abstract pattern of interpersonal conflict and resolution. This is why dreams feel narratively bizarre but emotionally coherent. Your brain isn't concerned with chronological accuracy or logical consistency. It's mining for patterns, for deep structures, for transferable wisdom that can be applied across contexts. Every memory you have is connected to thousands of other memories through this nightly remixing process. You're not storing isolated facts and experiences. You're building a vast neural web where everything relates to everything else. This interconnected knowledge structure is what we call wisdom, and it's literally constructed while you dream. Have you ever noticed how a good night's sleep can completely change your perspective on a problem? How something that seemed impossible before bed suddenly has obvious solutions in the morning? That's not just rest. That's your memory palace being renovated, with your dreams as the architects, redesigning the structure of your mind to accommodate new understanding. But memory consolidation and learning are just the beginning. Your sleeping brain is doing something even more extraordinary, something that has driven human innovation for millennia. It's time to explore how dreams don't just preserve the past, they generate the future. How the parallel worlds within you become the birthplace of genuine creativity and breakthrough insights that could never emerge from waking consciousness alone. It's June 1816, and 18-year-old Mary Godwin is vacationing at Villa Diodati on Lake Geneva with her lover Percy Shelley, Lord Byron, and Byron's physician, John Polidori. Unseasonably cold weather and volcanic ash from a distant eruption have darkened the skies, trapping them indoors. To pass the time, Byron proposes a challenge. Each person must write a ghost story, For nights, Mary struggles. Nothing comes. Then one evening, the group discusses galvanism, the idea that electricity might reanimate dead tissue. That night, Mary goes to bed with these ideas swirling in her mind. She falls into a waking dream, a vision so vivid she later described it as seeing with shut eyes, but acute mental vision. She sees a pale student kneeling beside a thing he has put together, a hideous phantasm of a man. She sees it stir with uneasy motion, showing signs of life. She wakes in terror, but realizes immediately, I have found it. What terrified me will terrify others. Within days, she begins writing Frankenstein, a novel that would define science fiction and explore questions about creation, responsibility, and what it means to be human, all born from a single dream at the threshold of sleep. If the idea that your sleeping mind might hold solutions that your waking intellect can never reach intrigues you, make sure this video has your like, because we're about to explore how the greatest innovations, discoveries, and artistic breakthroughs in human history emerge not from laboratories or studios, but from the parallel creative universes that unfold when consciousness lets go of control. Fact 34. The most famous creative dream in scientific history belongs to Dmitri Mendeleev, who in February 1869 was wrestling with organizing the known chemical elements into a coherent system. He'd written elements on cards, arranged and rearranged them, searching for an underlying pattern. After 3 sleepless days, exhausted, he finally dozed off at his desk. In his dream, he later recounted, he saw a table where all elements fell into place as required. He woke immediately and wrote it down on the back of an envelope. Only one correction was later needed. The periodic table, one of science's most elegant organizational systems, had emerged fully formed from his sleeping mind. But here's what makes this even more remarkable. Mendeleev's table didn't just organize known elements. It predicted elements that hadn't yet been discovered, leaving gaps where his pattern indicated missing pieces. Within 15 years, 3 of those predicted elements, gallium, scandium, and germanium, were discovered with properties almost exactly matching his predictions. His sleeping brain hadn't just solved a puzzle. It had perceived a deeper order in nature that his conscious mind was unable to see. The dream accessed pattern recognition capabilities that transcended logical analysis. Fact 35. Paul McCartney woke up one morning in 1964 with a complete melody in his head, so fully formed that he was convinced he must have heard it somewhere before. He went to a piano and played it, asking everyone he encountered, "Do you know this tune? Have you heard this before?" For weeks he worried he'd unconsciously plagiarized someone else's work. He hadn't. The melody that came to him in sleep became Yesterday, one of the most covered songs in music history, recorded over 2,200 times by other artists. What's extraordinary is that McCartney described the melody as arriving complete, harmony, structure, phrasing, all intact. His sleeping brain had composed a masterpiece and delivered it fully realized to his waking consciousness. This wasn't random neural firing creating lucky accidents. McCartney had spent years training his musical mind, absorbing patterns, structures, and techniques. His sleeping brain synthesized all that accumulated knowledge into something genuinely new, combining familiar elements in a novel configuration that his conscious mind had never considered. Fact 36. In 1844, Elias Howe was struggling to invent a practical sewing machine. He'd created a machine that used a needle with an eye at the blunt end, but it kept jamming and breaking thread. After months of failed prototypes, he had a nightmare. He dreamed he was captured by cannibals who danced around him with spears. As the spears came closer, he noticed each spearhead had a small eye-shaped hole near its tip. He woke in a revelation. The needle's eye should be at the pointed end, not the blunt end. This single insight, delivered through a terrifying dream, solved the central problem. Within months, he had a working lock-stitch sewing machine, that would revolutionize the textile industry and change manufacturing forever. Think about the creativity required here. His conscious mind was locked into conventional thinking. Needles have eyes at the blunt end. That's how needles work. His dreaming mind, freed from these constraints, found an abstract parallel in threatening spears and transferred that solution back to the original problem. That's not just creativity. That's genius-level lateral thinking. Fact 37. The neuroscience of creative dreaming reveals why these breakthroughs happen during sleep rather than waking thought. There's a brain network called the default mode network, or DMN, that becomes active when you're not focused on external tasks. It's the network responsible for daydreaming, mind-wandering, and self-reflection. During waking hours, your DMN and your executive control network, responsible for focused attention and logical analysis, work in opposition. When one is active, the other quiets down. You're either focused or wandering, but rarely both simultaneously. But during REM sleep, something extraordinary occurs. Your DMN becomes hyperactive while your executive control network essentially shuts down. You get intense associative thinking, wild connections between disparate concepts, without the logical governor saying, "That's impossible," or "That doesn't make sense." Neuroscientist Marcus Raschel, who discovered the DMN at Washington University in 2001, describes this state as unchained creativity. Your brain is making connections at maximum capacity without any constraints. Ideas that would never survive the filter of waking logic get to fully develop and recombine. Fact 38. Let's talk about the hypnagogic state specifically, that twilight zone between waking and sleep that Salvador Dali deliberately cultivated for artistic inspiration. Dali would sit in a chair holding a heavy key over a metal plate. As he drifted towards sleep, his hand would relax, the key would fall, the clang would wake him, and he'd immediately sketch the bizarre imagery flooding his mind. He called this technique slumber with a key, and he credited it with generating some of his most iconic surrealist imagery. But Dali wasn't just being eccentric. He'd stumbled onto a neurological sweet spot. During hypnagogia, your brain produces theta waves, the same pattern seen during deep meditation. Your sensory cortex begins generating spontaneous images, geometric patterns, faces, landscapes, without external input. Meanwhile, you retain just enough metacognitive awareness to observe and remember these visions. Contemporary research by MIT's Adam Har Horowitz has validated Dali's technique. Using the Dormio device that monitors the transition to sleep, researchers can wake subjects during hypnagogia and capture their reports. The imagery and ideas generated during this state show significantly higher creativity scores on standardized tests than ideas generated during full wakefulness or deep sleep. Fact 39. Thomas Edison, one of history's most prolific inventors with over 1,000 patents, used a nearly identical technique. He'd recline in a chair holding ball bearings. As he dozed, the bearings would drop, wake him, and he'd immediately document whatever thoughts were emerging. Edison was famously dismissive of extended sleep, claiming he only needed 4 to 5 hours per night. But this was misleading. He took multiple naps throughout the day, specifically targeting that hypnagogic state. He wasn't sleeping less. He was strategically harvesting the creative potential of sleep onset multiple times daily. In his own notes, Edison wrote about deliberately seeking solutions to engineering problems during these nap sessions. He understood that his waking mind could identify problems and gather information, but his sleeping mind generated novel solutions. He had built a systematic process for extracting innovation from the border between consciousness and dreams. Fact 40. There's a fundamental difference between how your waking and sleeping minds approach problems, and understanding this reveals why dreams are creative powerhouses. Your waking mind uses convergent thinking. starting with many possibilities and narrowing toward a single correct answer. It's linear, logical, rule-based. Your dreaming mind uses divergent thinking, starting with a single seed and generating multiple possibilities, making unexpected connections, violating rules. A study by psychiatrist J. Allen Hobson at Harvard showed that people woken from REM sleep show significantly enhanced performance on tasks requiring creative associations. In one experiment, subjects were given a word like cookies and asked to generate as many related words as possible. Those woken from REM sleep generated more unusual associations, connecting cookies to concepts like grandmother, security, childhood, while wake subjects produced more obvious associations like chocolate, sweet, baked. REM sleep doesn't make you think faster, it makes you think differently, accessing distant associations and unconventional connections that waking logic would dismiss as irrelevant. Fact 41. Now we need to address a common mistake that creative people make, trying to force creativity through sleep deprivation. There's a persistent myth that exhaustion unlocks creative insights, that great art requires suffering and sleeplessness. The reality is more nuanced. Yes, very mild sleep deprivation or the edge of exhaustion can sometimes reduce inhibitions and allow unconventional ideas to surface. But this is vastly different from chronic sleep deprivation, which devastates genuine creative capacity. Research from the University of Pennsylvania shows that after just 1 week of sleeping 6 hours per night, cognitive performance drops to the same level as someone who's been awake for 24 hours straight. Creativity, which requires complex neural integration, suffers even more than basic cognitive functions. The artists and writers who produced enduring work weren't successful because they slept poorly. They succeeded despite it, often paying terrible psychological and physical costs. The ones who maintained long, productive careers, like Leonard Cohen, Toni Morrison, or Haruki Murakami, were often meticulous about protecting their sleep. Fact 42. Let's explore something called the incubation effect in creativity, which has a profound connection to sleep. When you work intensely on a creative problem, then step away, solutions often emerge later, seemingly spontaneously. This has been documented since ancient times, but only recently have we understood the mechanism. A 2019 study from Lancaster University in the UK tested this systematically. Subjects worked on creative challenges, then either continued working, took a break with an unrelated task, or took a nap. The nap group showed by far the highest rate of breakthrough solutions. Nearly 60% found solutions after sleep, compared to 30% in the break group and 20% in the continuous work group. But here's the critical detail. The sleep period had to include REM. Subjects who napped but were awakened before entering REM showed no benefit over those who stayed awake. The creative insight required the specific neural processing that happens during REM sleep. Your sleeping brain continues working on problems your waking mind has abandoned. It's running simulations, testing combinations, exploring solution spaces that conscious thought would never enter. Then it delivers the solution back to consciousness, often as a sudden insight or aha moment that feels like it came from nowhere. Fact 43. There's a remarkable case study from the world of mathematics that demonstrates how powerful dream problem-solving can be. Srinivasa Ramanujan, the self-taught Indian mathematician who made extraordinary contributions to number theory in the early 1900s, regularly credited his discoveries to dreams. He claimed that the Hindu goddess Namagiri would appear in his dreams and present him with mathematical formulas. Upon waking, he'd write them down, often without proof. Western mathematicians were baffled. His formulas were correct and profound, but he couldn't explain how he'd derived them. What was really happening? Ramanujan had internalized mathematical patterns so deeply through intensive study that his dreaming brain could manipulate them at an intuitive level. His conscious mind translated these dream insights into religious visions. But the underlying process was his sleeping brain exploring mathematical landscapes and discovering valid relationships. Decades after his death, mathematicians are still finding applications for Ramanujan's dream-derived formulas in fields he couldn't have imagined, from computer science to string theory. His dreams weren't mystical revelations. They were his genius-level mathematical intuition operating without conscious constraints. Fact 44. Here's something practical you can implement starting now. Structured dream journaling for creativity. The technique has been used by artists, writers, and innovators for centuries, but recent research has validated and refined the practice. Keep a journal beside your bed. The moment you wake, before checking your phone or getting up, write down everything you remember from your dreams. Don't edit, don't judge, just capture. Include emotions, colors, sensations, bizarre logic, whatever appears. Research shows that this practice does three things. First, it signals to your brain that dreams are valuable, which increases dream recall over time. Second, it captures creative raw material, images, metaphors, narrative structures, that your waking mind can later refine and develop. Third, it trains you to maintain awareness across the sleep-wake boundary, eventually facilitating lucid dreaming. Many writers maintain that their most original characters, plot twists, and thematic elements emerge from dream journals. Artist Frida Kahlo filled notebooks with dream imagery that became the foundation of her surrealist paintings. Director Christopher Nolan has spoken about mining his dreams for the narrative structures in films like Inception and Interstellar. You're dreaming creative material every single night. The question is whether you're capturing it or letting it evaporate like morning mist. So, we've seen how dreams forge creativity through a perfect storm of conditions: hyperactive associative thinking, suspended logical constraints, access to deep pattern recognition, and the ability to synthesize disparate information into novel configurations. The parallel worlds within you aren't just memories being reshuffled. They're laboratories where impossible combinations are tested, where your accumulated knowledge recombines in ways that transcend waking logic. But creativity is only one dimension of these nightly journeys. There's something even more profound happening in your dreams, something that challenges our fundamental understanding of consciousness and reality itself. Because when you dream, you don't just process information or generate ideas. You create entire universes with their own physics, their own inhabitants, their own internal logic, worlds that feel absolutely real while you're experiencing them. So, the question becomes, how many versions of reality can exist simultaneously within a single mind? Let's venture into the deepest mystery of all. It's April 12th, 1975, and psychophysiologist Stephen LaBerge is lying in a sleep laboratory at Stanford University, connected to an array of sensors monitoring his brainwaves, eye movements, and muscle activity. He's attempting something that most scientists consider impossible. He's trying to become conscious inside his own dream while remaining asleep. At 3:17 a.m., the monitoring equipment shows him entering REM sleep. His eyes are darting beneath closed lids. His brain is wildly active. Then something unprecedented happens. His eyes perform a deliberate pattern, left, right, in a sequence he and the researchers agreed upon beforehand. He's signaling from inside the dream. For 8 seconds, he moves his eyes in the predetermined code, then continues dreaming. He's just proven that consciousness can exist simultaneously in two realities: the dream world he's experiencing and the physical world where his body sleeps. The boundary between parallel universes has become permeable. One mind, two simultaneous realities. The implications are staggering. If the idea that you might be living in multiple realities at once fascinates you, let this video know by hitting that like button. Because we're about to explore the most mind-bending aspect of dreams, how your single consciousness somehow generates, inhabits, and experiences entire universes that feel absolutely real, complete with their own laws of physics, their own logic, and their own authentic sense of presence. Fact 45. Let's start with the most fundamental question about dream reality. Why does it feel so real? When you're dreaming, you're not watching a movie, you're not observing from outside, you're fully present, fully embodied, fully convinced of the reality surrounding you. Neuroscience reveals why. During waking consciousness, your sense of reality is constructed from two sources: external sensory input from the world around you and internal predictions from your brain about what that input should be. Your brain is constantly generating models of reality, then checking those models against incoming data. When they match, you experience reality as stable and real. During dreams, external input drops to near zero. Your sensory gates are closed, but your internal prediction systems remain fully active, generating models of reality without any external input to contradict them. Your visual cortex creates images. Your auditory cortex creates sounds. Your motor cortex creates the sensation of movement. All of this internal generation feels real because there's no conflicting external information telling you otherwise. In a profound sense, your waking experience and your dream experience are generated by the same neural machinery. The only difference is the presence or absence of external sensory contradiction. Remove that contradiction, and pure simulation becomes indistinguishable from reality. Fact 46. This leads to a question that philosophers have grappled with for millennia. How do you know you're awake right now? In the 4th century BCE, Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi wrote about dreaming he was a butterfly. When he woke, he couldn't determine whether he was Zhuangzi who dreamed of being a butterfly, or a butterfly now dreaming of being Zhuangzi. Modern neuroscience hasn't resolved this question. It's deepened it. Your brain uses the same neural architecture to generate both waking and dream experience. The subjective quality of consciousness, what philosophers call qualia, is identical in both states. There's no internal marker, no mental watermark, that definitively labels an experience as dream versus reality. The only reliable difference is consistency and stability. Waking reality maintains logical continuity. Physical laws remain constant. You can recheck experiences and find them unchanged. Dream reality is fluid, unstable, constantly shifting. But in the moment of experiencing, both feel equally authentic. This isn't just philosophical wordplay. It's a fundamental insight into the nature of consciousness. Your sense of reality is always a construction, always a simulation. Whether that simulation is constrained by external sensory input or freely generated by internal processes, the subjective experience emerges from the same source, your brain's reality generation systems. Fact 47. Now, let's examine lucid dreaming more deeply because it represents something truly extraordinary. Consciousness becoming aware of itself while still generating and experiencing an alternate reality. Stephen LaBerge's experiments at Stanford throughout the 1980s and 90s established that lucid dreaming is not only real, but trainable. In lucid dreams, you suddenly realize, I'm dreaming, while the dream continues. This metacognitive awareness, thinking about your own thinking, should theoretically collapse the dream. After all, if you recognize it's not real, why would your brain continue generating it? But it doesn't collapse. The dream world persists, sometimes becoming even more vivid and stable once you're lucid. LaBerge trained dozens of lucid dreamers to perform experiments from within their dreams. They could signal using eye movements, hold their breath for measured intervals, or perform simple arithmetic, all while deeply asleep and dreaming. These dreamers reported that time perception in lucid dreams matches real time almost exactly. Counting to 10 in a lucid dream takes approximately 10 seconds in real time. This means lucid dreamers are experiencing a parallel reality that operates in synchronization with physical reality, despite being entirely internally generated. 2 timelines, 2 realities, 1 consciousness experiencing both simultaneously. Fact 48. Here's where it gets even stranger. Lucid dreamers report being able to manipulate their dream environments consciously. They can fly, walk through walls, teleport, or reshape landscapes with intention. Yet the dream often resists these manipulations, maintaining its own internal consistency. A lucid dreamer might try to conjure a specific person into their dream, only to have someone unexpected appear instead. Or they might try to change the dream scenery and find it shifts, but not in the way they intended. It's as if the dream has its own agency, its own generative momentum that negotiates with conscious intention rather than simply obeying it. Neuroscientist Ursula Voss at the Goethe University Frankfurt has studied this phenomenon using EEG. During lucid dreams, she found increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region associated with self-awareness and executive control, while other regions associated with the default mode network remain highly active. You have 2 systems running simultaneously: conscious control and unconscious generation, both contributing to the experience. You're simultaneously the author and the audience of your dream narrative, the director and the actor, the creator and the explorer. You exist in a superposition of control and surrender. Fact 49. Let's talk about dream characters, because they reveal something profound about the nature of self. In your dreams, you interact with other people, friends, strangers, family members, fictional characters. You have conversations. They surprise you with things they say. They have their own apparent motivations and behaviors, but every single one of these characters is being generated by your brain. You are creating both sides of every conversation, generating both your responses and theirs, yet you experience them as genuinely other, as separate minds with independent thoughts. Psychologist Antti Revonsuo at the University of Turku in Finland has proposed that dream characters represent what he calls autonomous avatar agents, semi-independent simulations of minds created by your brain's social simulation systems. Your brain, which evolved to navigate complex social environments, is so sophisticated at modeling other minds that it can generate convincing simulations even while you're asleep. These aren't puppets you're consciously controlling. They emerge from different neural subsystems with different priorities and processing styles. When a dream character surprises you, one part of your brain is genuinely surprising another part. You are a community of neural processes, and dreams allow these different communities to interact as if they were separate individuals. Fact 50. In 1981, philosopher Owen Flanagan asked a provocative question. If you could live forever in a perfect dream, would you? Most people's immediate response is no. They want real experiences, not simulated ones. But here's the challenge. What makes an experience real? If a dream generates genuine emotions, creates actual memories, produces real neurological changes, and feels absolutely authentic during the experience, in what sense is it less real than waking experience? Both are neural processes. Both are subjective experiences generated by your brain. Both have consequences for who you become. Modern virtual reality research has intensified this question. When people experience traumatic events in highly immersive VR, they develop genuine PTSD symptoms. Their brains treat the virtual experience as real, encoding it with the same emotional weight as actual physical experiences. The simulation creates real psychological effects. Similarly, dreams create real emotional processing, real memory consolidation, real creative insights. The parallel universes in your dreams aren't idle fantasies. They're genuine experiences with genuine consequences for your psychological development and neural architecture. Fact 51. There's a phenomenon in lucid dreaming that pushes these questions to their limit. Dream within a dream experiences. These occur when you wake up from a dream into what seems like reality, only to realize you're still dreaming. Some people report multiple nested layers, waking from a dream into another dream, then into another, 3 or 4 levels deep, before finally reaching actual waking consciousness. Christopher Nolan's film Inception popularized this concept, but it's based on real experiences reported by lucid dreamers for decades. The philosopher and lucid dream researcher Paul Tholey documented his own 5-layer nested dream in 1981, where each layer felt like genuine awakening, complete with the relief of finally being back to reality, only to discover yet another layer. What does this tell us? Your brain can generate infinite recursive layers of simulated reality, each feeling equally authentic. There's no privileged layer, no fundamental level that feels more real than the others. Each layer is just another simulation, and you have no way to determine from within the experience which layer you're currently inhabiting. This has profound implications. If your brain can generate multiple nested realities while you sleep, how can you be certain your waking reality isn't itself a layer within some larger system? Not necessarily simulation by an external agent, but perhaps another level of your own consciousness that remains inaccessible to your waking awareness. Fact 52. Let's explore the physics of dream worlds, because they reveal fascinating insights into how your brain constructs reality. In dreams, physics works until it doesn't. You might walk normally through a house, then suddenly float upward, or run through a wall, or find yourself instantly transported to a different location. Research by Jennifer Wint at Monash University in Australia analyzed thousands of dream reports, categorizing the types of physical impossibilities that occur. She found patterns. Teleportation is extremely common. Gravity becomes optional. Objects morph between forms. But certain physics remain surprisingly consistent. You still need doors to exit rooms, stairs to change levels, vehicles to travel long distances, even though you could theoretically dream yourself anywhere instantly. Your brain appears to default to simulating familiar physical rules, then occasionally violates them when the dream narrative requires it, or when your prefrontal oversight is particularly weak. It's as if your reality generation system has physical laws as its baseline setting, but can override them when necessary. This suggests that your sense of physical reality isn't learned from experiencing the external world. It's built into your brain's generative architecture. Infants who have never experienced gravity or solid objects still dream. We know this from REM monitoring. Your brain comes preloaded with expectations about how reality should behave, expectations that shape both waking perception and dream generation. Fact 53. Here's something that sounds like science fiction but is established neuroscience. People born blind have dreams, but the nature of those dreams depends on when they lost their sight. People born blind from birth report dreams rich with sound, touch, taste, and smell, but completely absent of visual imagery. They navigate dream spaces through tactile and auditory cues, and their dreams feel equally real and spatially coherent as sighted people's dreams. However, people who lost sight after age 5 or 6 continue to have visual dreams throughout their lives. Their brains retain the capacity to generate visual imagery, despite decades without visual input. Some report that their dream vision is actually clearer and more vivid than their fading visual memories, as if the dream generation system maintains its visual capabilities independently from external visual experience. Even more fascinating, people who lost sight between ages 2 and 5 occupy a middle ground. Some retain fragmentary visual elements in their dreams, flashes of color, partial shapes, suggesting that even minimal early visual experience is enough for the visual dream generation system to remain partially active. What does this reveal? Dream reality isn't just a replay of sensory experience. It's generated by dedicated neural systems that can operate independently from external input. Your brain has parallel universe generation machinery built into its architecture, systems that existed before you encountered the physical world, and will continue generating alternate realities regardless of your sensory condition. Fact 54. Quantum mechanics has a principle called superposition. A particle can exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed. Your dream consciousness operates under a similar principle. During non-lucid dreams, you simultaneously are yourself and not yourself. You observe the dream from first-person perspective, yet you often lack autobiographical identity, forgetting who you are in waking life while the dream unfolds. Research by philosopher and cognitive scientist Thomas Metzinger in Germany explores this fluid sense of self in dreams. He's documented dreams where people experience themselves as different ages, different genders, even different species, yet these transformations feel completely natural during the dream. There's continuity of consciousness without continuity of identity. Upon waking, you remember the dream from the perspective of that dream self, yet you also recognize it wasn't really you. You've experienced a state of consciousness detached from your persistent identity. This suggests that your sense of I, that feeling of being a continuous self, is a construction that can be suspended, modified, or replaced while consciousness itself persists. You are, quite literally, multiple potential selves existing in superposition. Your waking identity is just one collapsed wave function, one selected reality from infinite possibilities. Every night, you explore other branches of the probability tree, other versions of who you might be. Fact 55. Here's our final fact about parallel universes within consciousness, and it brings us full circle to where we started. The philosopher and neuroscientist Evan Thompson has proposed that we should understand dreams not as failed attempts to simulate reality, but as genuine alternate forms of consciousness, equally valid and authentic as waking consciousness. In this view, you don't have one consciousness that sometimes malfunctions during sleep. You have multiple modes of consciousness, each adapted for different purposes. Waking consciousness optimizes for navigation, survival, and social interaction in the physical world. Dream consciousness optimizes for emotional processing, creative recombination, and exploration of possibility space. Neither is more real than the other. They're parallel systems, parallel realities, parallel universes that you inhabit with the same subjective authenticity. The question isn't whether dreams are real, it's what kind of reality they represent. A reality of pure consciousness, uncontaminated by external constraints, revealing the fundamental generative capacity of your mind. Every night, you die to one universe and are born into another. Every morning, you die to that universe and return to this one. You are living multiple lives, experiencing multiple realities, inhabiting parallel worlds that all exist within the vast space of your own consciousness. But not all dream worlds are created equal. Not all parallel universes within you are places of wonder and creativity. Some are territories of darkness, landscapes of fear that seem designed to terrorize rather than inspire. These shadow realms, these nightmares that plague your sleep, aren't random chaos or meaningless fear. They're something far more purposeful, far more important than most people realize. So, we must venture into the darker corners of the dream multiverse, into the nightmare dimensions, to understand why your brain sometimes chooses to frighten you, and what these terrifying parallel worlds are trying to teach you. The year is 1781, and Swiss-British painter Henri Fuseli unveils a work that will haunt art history, The Nightmare. The painting depicts a woman sprawled unconscious across a bed, her arms dangling helplessly, while a demonic creature sits upon her chest, staring directly at the viewer with malevolent eyes. In the background, a horse with blank white eyes emerges from darkness, Fuseli's painting captures something humanity has feared for millennia, the terrifying weight of the nightmare. But here's what makes this painting more than artistic imagination. Fuseli is depicting a real phenomenon that humans across every culture and era have experienced identically: the crushing weight on the chest, the sense of a malevolent presence, the paralysis, the terror. For centuries, people called it the old hag, the nightmare, literally a female horse demon that rides sleepers, or simply the shadow man. Now we know this universal nightmare has a specific neurological cause, and understanding it unlocks the deeper purpose of why your brain creates landscapes of fear while you sleep. If you've ever woken from a nightmare wondering why your brain would terrorize you, stay with us and consider subscribing, because what we're about to reveal will transform your relationship with fear, showing you that nightmares aren't glitches in your sleep system. They're sophisticated survival technology that's been protecting human consciousness for hundreds of thousands of years. Fact 56. Let's start with the etymology, because it reveals how deeply nightmares are embedded in human experience. The word nightmare comes from Old English mare, referring to an evil female spirit or demon believed to sit on sleepers' chests, suffocating them. This wasn't just English folklore. Ancient Romans called it incubus. Scandinavians called it mara. Chinese tradition spoke of guiya, or ghost pressure. Turkish folklore described karabazan. Japanese culture knew it as kanashibari. Across completely independent cultures separated by oceans and millennia, humans described identical experiences: waking in the night to find themselves paralyzed, sensing a malevolent presence, feeling crushing weight on their chest, sometimes even seeing shadowy figures in the room. This universality suggests we're dealing with something fundamental to human neurobiology, not cultural invention. Modern sleep science has identified the mechanism: sleep paralysis. Remember how we discussed rematonia, the system that paralyzes your muscles during REM sleep to prevent you from acting out dreams? Sometimes this paralysis persists for seconds or even minutes after consciousness returns. You're awake, aware, but completely unable to move. Your conscious mind is online, but your motor system remains locked in sleep mode. Here's where it gets terrifying. Your amygdala, your brain's threat detection system, interprets this paralysis as danger. You can't move, you can't speak, you can't defend yourself. Your amygdala floods your consciousness with fear, and your pattern recognition systems, desperate to explain this inexplicable terror, generate the presence of a threat, the shadow figure, the old hag, the demonic entity. Your brain is creating a narrative to explain the raw fear you're experiencing. Fact 57. But sleep paralysis nightmares are only one type. The majority of nightmares occur during REM sleep without paralysis, and they serve a completely different function. Neuroscientist and dream researcher Andy Revonsuo from the University of Turku has proposed what he calls the threat simulation theory, the idea that nightmares are your brain's emergency training program. Throughout human evolution, our ancestors faced constant threats: predators, hostile rivals, environmental dangers, social ostracism. Those who could mentally rehearse responses to threats had better survival odds than those who couldn't. Dreams, particularly nightmares, became a safe simulation environment where your brain could practice threat recognition and response without actual danger. Revonsuo analyzed thousands of dream reports and found that threatening events occur in dreams with a frequency far exceeding their occurrence in waking life. Modern humans living in safe environments still dream about being chased, attacked, falling, or facing catastrophe multiple times per week. Your brain is maintaining ancient threat preparation systems that evolution built over millions of years. Think about it. A nightmare about being chased by a predator costs you nothing, just some temporary fear and disrupted sleep. but that simulation might prime your threat recognition systems to respond milliseconds faster in an actual emergency. Those milliseconds could mean survival. Evolution selected for brains that practice disaster scenarios, even at the cost of occasional terror. Fact 58. Here's where nightmare function becomes even more specific and purposeful. Research on trauma survivors reveals that nightmares following traumatic experiences serve a processing function. Combat veterans with PTSD, survivors of assault, people who have experienced disasters, they often have recurring nightmares that replay elements of their trauma. For decades, these nightmares were viewed as symptoms of dysfunction, evidence that the trauma had broken something in the brain. But recent research suggests a different interpretation. Nightmares are the brain's attempt to process and integrate overwhelming experiences. Dr. Anne Jaman at the University of Pittsburgh has studied nightmare content in PTSD patients extensively. She's found that nightmares don't simply replay trauma, they remix it, combining traumatic elements with other memories, gradually abstracting the experience, stripping away some of the specific details while preserving the emotional core. Over time, if the processing works correctly, nightmares become less frequent and less intense. The brain has successfully integrated the trauma, moved it from active threat status to process past experience status. Nightmares are the mechanism by which this transfer happens. When this process gets stuck, when the same nightmare repeats without variation or resolution, that's when intervention becomes necessary. The nightmare has become a loop rather than a processing pathway. Fact 59. This understanding has led to a revolutionary treatment for chronic nightmares called image rehearsal therapy, or IRT, developed by psychologist Barry Krakow in the 1990s. The technique is elegantly simple. Patients write down their recurring nightmares, then consciously rewrite them while awake, changing the narrative to include resolution, empowerment, or escape. Then, during the day, they repeatedly rehearse the new version, visualizing it in detail. They're essentially pre-scripting an alternate version of their nightmare. When the nightmare occurs again during sleep, the brain now has an alternative narrative pathway available. Many patients report that their nightmares shift, incorporate elements from the revised version, or disappear entirely. A 2001 study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that IRT reduced nightmare frequency by over 50% in chronic nightmare sufferers, with effects lasting years after the intervention. Think about what this means. You can edit your dreams from the waking side. The boundary between conscious and unconscious is negotiable. Your waking mind can reprogram your sleeping mind's narrative patterns. This works because nightmares aren't random. They're generated by pattern-matching systems that can learn new patterns. By providing your brain with alternative scenarios during waking hours, you're essentially updating the software that generates your dream content. Fact 60. Let's examine why your amygdala becomes hyperactive during REM sleep, because this reveals something profound about nightmare generation. During waking hours, your prefrontal cortex regulates your amygdala, providing context and perspective. When your amygdala signals threat, your prefrontal cortex assesses whether that threat is real and proportional. But during REM sleep, as we've discussed, your prefrontal cortex goes relatively quiet. Your amygdala is running without oversight. Small triggers can cascade into intense fear responses without rational calibration. A shadow becomes a monster. An unfamiliar face becomes a threat. A feeling of falling becomes mortal danger. Dr. Matthew Walker's research has shown that your amygdala during REM sleep shows 30% more activity than during waking hours. You're literally more sensitive to threat while dreaming. This heightened sensitivity serves the threat simulation function. Your brain is practicing identifying danger with the sensitivity dial turned up, ensuring you don't miss subtle threats. But this also explains why nightmares feel so terrifying. often more so than actual dangerous situations you've faced while awake. Your threat response system is operating at maximum sensitivity without the moderating influence of rational analysis. The fear is pure, unfiltered, amplified. Fact 61. There's a fascinating difference in nightmare content across different age groups that reveals how nightmares track developmental threats. Children's nightmares tend to feature monsters, creatures, and being chased, threats that align with childhood vulnerabilities and limited understanding of danger. Adolescent nightmares shift towards social threats, embarrassment, rejection, being unprepared for exams or performances. These reflect the intense social navigation challenges of adolescence. Adult nightmares become more psychologically complex. Infidelity, job loss, harm, coming to loved ones, personal failure. They track the threats most relevant to adult life circumstances and responsibilities. Elderly people's nightmares often feature themes of helplessness, illness, and loss, reflecting the specific vulnerabilities of aging. The content shifts, but the function remains constant. Your brain simulates the threats most relevant to your current life stage, maintaining threat preparation systems calibrated to your actual vulnerability profile. This age-related shift in nightmare content proves that nightmares aren't random fear generators. They're sophisticated risk assessment systems that update continuously based on your changing circumstances and concerns. Fact 62. Now we need to talk about recurring nightmares because they represent something important. When the same nightmare repeats night after night, sometimes for years or even decades, your brain is essentially posting a priority message that your waking consciousness isn't receiving. Psychoanalytic traditions have long interpreted recurring dreams as unresolved psychological conflicts. Modern neuroscience provides a more specific mechanism. Recurring nightmares represent stuck processing loops. Your brain has identified something that needs integration or resolution, but the processing pathway keeps encountering the same obstacle, forcing it to restart the loop. Sometimes the obstacle is purely neurological. Trauma has created such strong fear memory associations that the brain can't progress past them without intervention. But often the obstacle is behavioral or psychological. There's an unresolved conflict, an unacknowledged fear, a decision being avoided, and your sleeping brain keeps returning to it, keeps simulating it, keeps trying to process it. The key to resolving recurring nightmares often lies in identifying what they're trying to process and consciously addressing it during waking hours. Not necessarily by analyzing dream symbolism, but by asking, what is the emotional core of this nightmare, and where in my waking life am I encountering that same emotional pattern? Fact 63. Let's explore a common mistake people make with nightmares: trying to suppress them or avoid sleep for fear of having them. This creates a vicious cycle. Sleep deprivation increases REM pressure, making REM sleep more intense when it finally occurs. More intense REM means more emotionally charged dreams, including more nightmares. Additionally, chronic stress and anxiety during waking hours prime your amygdala to be even more hyperactive during sleep. If you're constantly anxious while awake, your brain maintains that anxious state into sleep, ensuring your threat simulation systems run at maximum sensitivity. The paradox is that the more you fear nightmares and try to avoid them through sleep avoidance, the more severe and frequent they become. You're essentially training your brain to associate sleep with threat, which guarantees your amygdala will be on high alert during sleep. The antidote is counterintuitive: accepting nightmares as natural brain function, removing the meta-fear of fear itself. When you stop being afraid of nightmares, when you recognize them as your brain's attempt at threat preparation and emotional processing, they lose much of their power and often decrease in frequency. Fact 64. There's a neurochemical detail about nightmares that connects to everything we've discussed about emotional processing. Remember that during REM sleep, norepinephrine drops to 0. Nightmares are one of the few experiences that can trigger norepinephrine release even during REM sleep. Intense nightmares, particularly those involving trauma or life-threatening situations, can partially reactivate your stress chemical systems. This is actually necessary for certain types of emotional processing. The nightmare needs to generate enough emotional intensity to activate memory consolidation systems, while still maintaining the relative safety of reduced norepinephrine. It's a delicate balance. Too little emotional intensity, and the memory doesn't get processed. Too much intensity, and you get trauma reinforcement instead of trauma resolution. This is why the most effective trauma processing happens when nightmares gradually decrease in intensity over time. They're successfully titrating the emotional exposure, processing it in manageable doses. When nightmares remain at high intensity or increase over time, it's a sign that the processing system has been overwhelmed and needs external support through therapy or other interventions. Fact 65. Here's something that will change how you think about nightmare prevention. Your waking thoughts during the hour before sleep significantly influence dream content. This is called the dream continuity hypothesis, and research consistently supports it. If you spend the hour before bed consuming disturbing content, violent news, horror movies, anxiety-inducing social media, you're priming your brain's content generation systems with threatening material. Your amygdala enters sleep already activated, and that activation carries into your dreams. Conversely, engaging with calming, positive, or neutral content before sleep creates different priming. Reading peaceful narratives, listening to calming music, having positive conversations, or practicing gratitude exercises can literally shift the probability distribution of your dream content toward less threatening scenarios. This isn't mystical thinking, it's straightforward neural priming. The memories and emotions most active during the transition to sleep are most likely to be incorporated into early dream content, setting the tone for the night's dream trajectory. Fact 66. Our final fact about nightmares brings us to their ultimate purpose and their strange gift. Nightmares, as terrifying as they are, represent your brain's profound commitment to your survival and well-being. They're proof that your neural systems care enough about your future to run disaster simulations, to process overwhelming experiences, to maintain threat vigilance even in safe environments. The parallel universe of nightmares isn't a malfunction. It's a training ground, a processing center, a pressure release valve for fears and traumas that can't be safely confronted in waking life. Your brain creates these dark worlds not to torture you, but to prepare you, to heal you, to ensure you're ready for whatever threats reality might present. And here's the profound paradox. The same neural systems that generate your worst nightmares are also capable of generating your deepest healing. Because nightmares aren't the only intense emotional experiences your sleeping brain processes. There's another side to this coin, another way your dreams work with powerful emotions, not to terrify you, but to restore you. The shadow realm has a counterpart, a healing chamber, where your sleeping consciousness performs psychological medicine that no waking therapy can fully replicate. So, let's step from darkness into light, from fear into restoration, and discover how the parallel worlds within you don't just prepare you for threats, they actively heal your mind, process your pain, and restore your emotional balance in ways that might be the most important function of sleep itself. In ancient Greece, around 300 BCE, if you fell ill with a condition doctors couldn't cure, you might make a pilgrimage to one of over 300 Asclepius temples scattered across the Mediterranean. These weren't ordinary medical facilities, they were dream temples. After ritual purification and offerings, you would be led to the Abaton, a sacred sleeping chamber. Priests would give you specific instructions. Sleep here tonight, and the god Asclepius will visit you in your dreams to heal you or reveal the cure for your ailment. Thousands of stone tablets found at these temple sites record miraculous healings that patients attributed to their therapeutic dreams. One inscription from Epidaurus describes a man who came blind and left seeing. Another describes a woman who came unable to walk and departed running. Modern skeptics dismiss these as placebo effects or priestly fraud. But here's what they miss. The Greeks had discovered something neuroscience is only now validating. Sleep and dreams don't just maintain your mind, they actively repair it. Your dreams are performing psychological surgery every single night. And in some cases, they're achieving healing that no waking intervention can match. If the idea that your dreams are medicine fascinates you, show this video some love with a like, because what we're about to explore might be the most important function of sleep. How the parallel healing universe that unfolds each night is literally saving your psychological life, processing your pain, and restoring your emotional balance with precision that exceeds our most advanced therapies. Fact 67. Let's start with the most powerful discovery in modern sleep science. REM sleep is nature's therapy session. Matthew Walker at UC Berkeley conducted groundbreaking research that revealed exactly how this works. He showed volunteers emotionally disturbing images while their brains were scanned using fMRI. The amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system, lit up intensely as expected. Then he split the subjects into two groups. One group was allowed normal sleep. The other was kept awake for the same duration. 12 hours later, both groups viewed the same disturbing images again while being scanned. The sleep group showed dramatically reduced amygdala activation. The emotional charge had been stripped from the memories. They could view the images calmly, recognizing them as disturbing, but no longer experiencing the intense emotional reaction. The wake group showed no reduction. If anything, their emotional reactivity had slightly increased through rumination. But here's the crucial finding. This emotional healing only occurred if subjects had adequate REM sleep. Those who slept but had disrupted REM showed minimal benefit. The healing happened specifically during REM, during dreams, not during other sleep stages. Walker describes REM sleep as overnight therapy, a neurochemically safe space where your brain can reactivate emotional memories without the stress hormones that normally accompany them, allowing you to process and integrate difficult experiences without being re-traumatized by them. Fact 68. The neurochemical environment of REM sleep creates perfect conditions for emotional healing, and it's unlike any waking state. During waking hours, when you experience or recall something emotionally intense, your brain releases norepinephrine, a stress chemical that's part of your fight or flight response. This chemical tags memories as emotionally significant, which is useful for survival. Remember what threatened you, but it also keeps emotional wounds fresh. During REM sleep, your brain essentially creates a norepinephrine-free zone. It's the only time in your entire 24-hour cycle when norepinephrine levels drop to virtually zero. In this unique neurochemical state, your brain can reactivate emotional memories without triggering the stress response that normally accompanies them. It's like being able to touch a hot stove after it's cooled down. You can examine the experience, understand it, integrate it, without getting burned again. Your brain is systematically reviewing your emotional experiences in a safe container, stripping away the neurochemical markers of threat while preserving the information content. Pierre Mackay's research at the University of Liège in Belgium used PET scans to show that during REM sleep, while your amygdala is highly active processing emotions, your anterior cingulate cortex, involved in error detection and conflict monitoring, shows reduced activity. You're processing emotions without the internal critic, without the rumination and self-judgment that often accompanies emotional processing while awake. Fact 69. This overnight therapy has profound implications for mental health, particularly depression. One of the most consistent findings in depression research is that depressed individuals show abnormal REM sleep patterns. They enter REM sleep faster after falling asleep, spend more time in REM, and show more intense REM activity. Their eyes move more rapidly beneath closed lids. For decades, researchers interpreted this as depression causing sleep disturbances. But growing evidence suggests the opposite. The abnormal REM might be the brain's desperate attempt to process the overwhelming negative emotions of depression. The increased REM represents the brain working overtime on emotional processing that it can't complete. Here's where it gets fascinating. One reason antidepressants work might be through their effects on sleep. Most antidepressants suppress REM sleep initially, which sounds counterproductive. But they appear to normalize REM architecture over time, helping the brain establish more efficient emotional processing patterns. Even more intriguing, REM sleep deprivation, deliberately waking people every time they enter REM, produces a rapid but temporary antidepressant effect in about 60% of depressed patients. They feel dramatically better within 24 hours. The effect disappears after normal sleep resumes, but it proves that REM sleep and mood regulation are intimately connected. Your dreams aren't just reflecting your emotional state, they're actively regulating it, and disruptions to this regulation contribute to mood disorders. Fact 70. Let's examine something you've probably experienced: why difficult problems seem more manageable after sleep. There's a folk saying, "Things always look better in the morning." Neuroscience reveals this isn't just optimism or distance from the problem. Your sleeping brain has literally changed your emotional relationship to the situation. Researcher Rosalind Cartwright at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago studied this phenomenon for decades, particularly in people going through divorce. She found that subjects whose dreams incorporated emotional elements from their divorce showed better psychological adjustment 6 months later compared to those whose dreams avoided divorce-related content. The people whose brains actively process the painful experience during dreams emerge more resilient. Those whose dreams avoided the topic remain stuck, ruminating during waking hours without progressing toward acceptance or integration. Cartwright described dreams as the mind's own psychotherapist, working through emotional challenges, testing different perspectives, gradually shifting your relationship to difficult experiences. But this only works if you allow the processing to happen. Suppression, avoidance, or REM disruption prevents this natural healing. Have you noticed that problems that seem overwhelming at night often feel more manageable in the morning? That's not illusion. That's the measurable result of your dreams performing emotional triage while you slept. Fact 71. There's a specific type of dream content that appears universally across cultures and seems particularly important for emotional healing. Dreams of the deceased. Studies show that 50–80% of grieving individuals dream about their lost loved ones, and these dreams follow predictable patterns. Early after loss, dreams often involve confusion. The deceased person is alive again, the dreamer doesn't remember they died, or there's some mistake that needs correcting. As grief progresses, dreams shift. The deceased begins acknowledging their death. They offer reassurance, say goodbye, or give permission to move forward. These dreams are so common and follow such consistent patterns that some researchers propose they represent a universal grief processing mechanism. Your brain is gradually updating its model of reality, integrating the loss, shifting from "this person is temporarily absent" to "this person is permanently gone, but their influence persists in memory." People who have these dreams report significant comfort from them, often describing them as more vivid and emotionally meaningful than ordinary dreams. Some describe feeling they have actually communicated with the deceased, and while that interpretation isn't scientifically supportable, the healing effect is real and measurable. Your dreaming brain has evolved mechanisms specifically for processing loss, helping you maintain connection to important relationships while accepting changed circumstances. This is emotional medicine at its most profound. Fact 72. Now we need to discuss a common but dangerous mistake: using alcohol or sedatives to help sleep, particularly when dealing with emotional distress. Alcohol might help you fall asleep faster, but it devastates the very sleep stages that provide emotional healing. Alcohol suppresses REM sleep during the first half of the night. You get more deep sleep initially, which makes you feel like you're sleeping well, but you're missing crucial REM periods. In the second half of the night, as alcohol metabolizes, you often experience REM rebound, intense, fragmented REM with vivid, sometimes disturbing dreams, frequently causing awakening. The result? You're blocking your brain's natural overnight therapy during early sleep, then experiencing chaotic, incomplete processing during late sleep. You wake up not only unrefreshed, but emotionally worse than when you went to bed. Many sedative medications have similar effects, suppressing REM or disrupting sleep architecture. If you're using substances to cope with emotional distress, you're inadvertently preventing the natural healing process that would help resolve that distress. This creates a vicious cycle. Emotional pain disrupts sleep. You use substances to force sleep. Those substances block emotional processing, which maintains or worsens emotional pain, leading to continued substance use. Breaking this cycle often requires accepting some temporary sleep difficulty while allowing natural sleep architecture to restore itself. Fact 73. Let's explore the concept of dream rehearsal for emotional preparation, which represents another healing dimension of dreams. Beyond processing past emotional experiences, dreams appear to prepare you for anticipated emotional challenges. Research shows that people facing stressful events, upcoming exams, medical procedures, important performances, frequently dream about those events in the nights leading up to them. But these aren't simple replays of anticipated scenarios. The dreams introduce complications, variations, and often exaggerated challenges. A student preparing for an exam might dream of showing up late, forgetting everything, or finding the test written in an incomprehensible language. An athlete before competition might dream of equipment failure or unexpected obstacles. These anxiety dreams, while unpleasant, appear to serve a preparation function. Studies by Antonio Zadra at the University of Montreal found that individuals who had anxiety dreams about upcoming stressful events showed better actual performance and lower stress levels during the real event compared to those who didn't dream about it or who had neutral dreams. Your brain is essentially pre-experiencing stress in a safe simulation, allowing your emotional systems to develop coping responses and reducing the shock of the actual experience. It's like a vaccine, a controlled exposure to stress that builds psychological immunity. Fact 74. There's emerging research on what's called mastery dreams. Dreams where you successfully overcome challenges, demonstrating competence or courage. These appear particularly important for building emotional resilience. Athletic psychologists have documented that athletes who dream about successful performance before competition show improved confidence and outcomes. Similarly, people recovering from trauma who begin having dreams where they're powerful rather than helpless mark a turning point in recovery. Your dreaming brain isn't just processing what happened, it's authoring new narratives about your capabilities, your agency, your ability to face challenges. These narrative shifts during dreams create emotional confidence that transfers to waking life. This is why lucid dreaming training can be therapeutically valuable. When you become conscious in a dream, you can practice confronting fears, asserting agency, or transforming threatening situations. The emotional lessons learned in lucid dreams appear to generalize to waking confidence and reduced anxiety. Some therapists now incorporate lucid dreaming techniques specifically for this purpose, training patients to become conscious in anxiety dreams and practice mastery responses within the dream itself. Fact 75. Let's examine the role of dreams in social and relational healing. About 70% of dream content involves other people, And dreams frequently replay social conflicts, misunderstandings, or relationship tensions. This isn't coincidence. It's your brain's social simulation system, working to maintain and repair your social bonds. Research by Patrick McNamara at Boston University shows that dreams often reframe social conflicts, presenting alternative perspectives or highlighting emotional elements you might have missed during the actual interaction. You might dream about an argument, but in the dream, you see the other person's vulnerability or understand their motivation in a way you couldn't while angry. These perspective shifts during dreams can lead to genuine insight and relationship repair. Many people report waking up after dreaming about someone they're in conflict with, suddenly understanding the situation differently, or feeling ready to reconcile. Your dreaming brain is essentially performing relationship maintenance, helping you maintain empathy and connection, even when waking interactions have created distance or hurt. This is social emotional medicine, keeping you connected to your tribal network even through conflict. Fact 76. There's a fascinating phenomenon in circadian rhythm research that connects to emotional healing, the relationship between light exposure, sleep timing, and mood. Seasonal affective disorder, depression that occurs during winter months, is directly linked to disrupted circadian rhythms and altered sleep patterns. But here's the nuance. It's not just about sleep duration. It's about the timing and quality of REM sleep. REM sleep in the early morning hours, when it's most naturally abundant, appears particularly important for mood regulation. People whose sleep schedules force them to cut short late morning sleep, waking before their natural rhythm would have them wake, miss crucial REM periods, and show increased risk of depression. This explains why shift workers show elevated depression rates. It's not just sleep deprivation. It's chronically missing the specific sleep stages when emotional processing is most efficient. The treatment for seasonal affective disorder often includes bright light therapy in the morning, which shifts circadian rhythms earlier, allowing natural sleep to occur at the optimal time for both deep sleep and REM sleep. You're not just treating with light, you're restoring the timing of overnight emotional healing. Fact 77. Our final healing fact brings together everything we've explored. The ancient Greeks weren't wrong about their dream temples. They discovered that creating optimal conditions for sleep, embedding intention and meaning into the sleep experience, and honoring dreams as significant could facilitate healing that ordinary waking interventions couldn't achieve. Modern sleep medicine is, in many ways, returning to this wisdom. We now understand that sleep isn't a passive state where healing happens automatically. The conditions matter. The pre-sleep psychological state matters. The meaning you assign to dreams matters. When you approach sleep as sacred time, as an opportunity for your deeper consciousness to work on your behalf, something shifts. Not through mystical mechanisms, but through well-understood psychobiological ones. You reduce pre-sleep anxiety, which allows better sleep onset. You prime your brain with healing intention, which influences dream content. You create psychological space for processing rather than suppression. Your parallel healing universe isn't a gift from gods. It's a gift from evolution, from millions of years of selection for brains that could process emotions, maintain social bonds, and restore psychological balance during the vulnerable state of sleep. But, like any sophisticated system, it works best when you understand and respect its processes. The healing chamber exists within you, operating every night, performing medicine that no waking therapy can fully replicate. The question is whether you're creating conditions that allow this healing to unfold fully, or whether modern life, with its artificial light, its stress, its sleep medications, its dismissal of dreams, is preventing your natural healing systems from completing their work. But healing past emotional wounds is only part of what your dreams accomplish, because the same neural systems that process your past and regulate your present emotions are also doing something even more extraordinary. They're reaching forward in time, preparing you for a future that doesn't exist yet, in ways that sometimes seem to blur the boundary between prediction and prophecy. So, we must explore the strange frontier where dreams meet technology, where ancient mysteries encounter cutting-edge neuroscience, and where the parallel worlds within you might hold capabilities we're only beginning to understand. It's August 2020, and at MIT's Media Lab, a researcher named Adam Har Horowitz is conducting an experiment that sounds like science fiction. Volunteers wear a device called Dormio on their hand, a biosensor that monitors muscle tone, heart rate, and skin conductance to detect the precise moment they transition from wakefulness into sleep. At that exact threshold, the device plays an audio cue, a single word, like tree or fork. Seconds later, the device gently wakes them and asks what they were thinking. Subject after subject reports rich imagery and associations related to the cued word. Forests, branches, tree houses for tree, or meals, utensils, dinner tables for fork. Then researchers give them creative tasks related to those words. Those who receive dream incubation cues generate ideas rated 43% more creative by independent judges compared to control groups. For the first time in history, technology has successfully interfaced with the dream state, influencing content and harnessing the creative power of sleep onset. The barrier between technology and dreams has been breached. The question is, where does this lead? If the future of dream technology intrigues you, let us know by hitting that like and subscribe button, because we're about to explore the cutting edge where neuroscience meets technology, where the parallel worlds within you are being mapped, influenced, and potentially transformed in ways that will challenge everything you thought was possible about the privacy and sovereignty of your own mind. Fact 78. The Dormio project represents the leading edge of what researchers call targeted dream incubation, or TDI, but it's built on decades of foundational research. The concept originated with Harvard psychologist Deirdre Barrett's work in the 1990s, demonstrating that pre-sleep suggestion could influence dream content. What's revolutionary about Dormio is precision timing, interfacing with the hypnagogic state at the exact moment when your brain is most receptive to external input, while still maintaining enough consciousness to incorporate it meaningfully. The implications extend far beyond creativity. Researchers are exploring TDI for treating phobias by introducing calming associations with feared objects during sleep onset. They're testing it for language learning by playing foreign vocabulary during specific sleep stages. They're investigating whether targeting dream content can accelerate skill acquisition in everything from music to athletics. But here's the critical question. If we can influence what you dream about, are we respecting the autonomy of your unconscious mind? Your dreams have evolved to serve specific functions: emotional processing, memory consolidation, threat simulation. When we introduce external content, are we optimizing these processes or disrupting them? The technology exists. The ethics are still being written. Fact 79. Let's talk about something even more ambitious: dream decoding. In 2013, researchers at the ATR Computational Neuroscience Laboratories in Kyoto, Japan, published a breakthrough study. They use functional MRI to scan people's brains during early sleep, while repeatedly waking them to collect dream reports. After analyzing over 200 dreams paired with brain scans, they trained machine learning algorithms to recognize patterns. The results were stunning. Their system could predict with 60% accuracy what category of object someone was dreaming about, whether they were dreaming about buildings, transportation, people, or nature. Just by analyzing brain activity patterns, they could identify broad dream themes, whether the dream was indoors or outdoors, whether it involved motion, with even higher accuracy. This isn't mind reading in the telepathic sense. They couldn't reconstruct specific dream narratives or see what you're seeing, but they'd proven that dream content has a detectable neural signature that external observers can decode. Your private parallel universe is leaving measurable traces that technology can interpret. More recent work by neuroscientist Jack Gallant at UC Berkeley has pushed this further, using fMRI patterns to reconstruct rough visual approximations of what people are seeing, both while awake and during sleep onset. The reconstructions are blurry and impressionistic, but they're recognizable. Technology is beginning to visualize your internal experiences. Fact 80. This leads to a technology that's both fascinating and deeply concerning. Potential dream recording. Multiple research groups are working towards systems that could capture and store your dreams for later replay. The technology isn't there yet. Current approaches can only capture fragments, categories, emotional tones, but the trajectory is clear. Imagine waking up and being able to replay last night's dreams in visual form. Imagine being able to share dreams with others, creating a new medium of communication. Imagine artists capturing dreams as raw material for films or virtual reality experiences. The creative and scientific possibilities are extraordinary. But now imagine someone else having access to your dream recordings. Your dreams contain your fears, desires, hidden thoughts, unprocessed emotions, the most private content your mind generates. They reveal things about you that you haven't consciously acknowledged, let alone shared with others. Dream recording technology would create data more intimate than anything currently capturable. Who owns your dream data? Can employers require dream screening? Could dreams be subpoenaed as evidence? Could advertisers target you based on dream content? These aren't hypothetical questions. They're ethical challenges we'll face within decades as the technology matures. Fact 81. Now, let's explore a technology that's already commercially available and widely used. Sleep tracking apps and devices. Millions of people wear devices that monitor movement, heart rate, and sometimes even brainwaves to analyze their sleep stages. These apps promise to optimize your sleep, wake you at the ideal time, and provide insights into your sleep quality. But here's what most people don't realize. The accuracy of consumer sleep trackers is highly questionable. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine found that popular wearable devices misidentify sleep stages up to 40% of the time when compared to medical-grade polysomnography, the gold standard of sleep measurement. They're particularly bad at detecting REM sleep and can't distinguish between light sleep and quiet wakefulness. Yet millions of people are making decisions about their sleep based on this inaccurate data. They're worrying about not getting enough deep sleep when the device might be misclassifying their actual sleep stages. This creates a phenomenon we discussed earlier: orthosomnia, obsessive concern with achieving perfect sleep metrics. The anxiety generated by trying to optimize sleep often worsens sleep quality, creating a self-defeating cycle. The lesson? Technology can provide useful general feedback. You went to bed late, you woke up multiple times, but don't let imperfect metrics dictate your relationship with sleep. Your subjective experience of feeling rested or unrested is often a better guide than what your device reports. Fact 82. There's another technological approach to dreams that's showing genuine promise: neurofeedback training for lucid dreaming. Researchers have developed headbands that detect REM sleep, then deliver subtle sensory cues, gentle sounds, vibrations, or lights, designed to penetrate into dream awareness without waking you. The idea is that these cues become incorporated into your dream content, and if you've trained yourself to recognize them, they can trigger lucidity, the realization that you're dreaming. Studies show this can increase lucid dreaming frequency from occasional spontaneous occurrences to multiple times per week for trained users. Dr. Ursula Voss at Goethe University has taken this further, using transcranial alternating current stimulation. extremely weak electrical currents applied to the scalp to artificially induce the brainwave patterns associated with lucid dreaming. In her experiments, subjects who received stimulation at specific frequencies during REM sleep were significantly more likely to become lucid. This raises a profound question. If we can artificially induce lucidity, are we enhancing natural consciousness or creating something artificial? Lucid dreamers report that tech-induced lucidity sometimes feels qualitatively different from naturally occurring lucidity. More controlled, but less spontaneous. More metacognitive, but less emotionally rich. We're learning to hack consciousness, but we don't fully understand what we might be losing in the process. Fact 83. Let's discuss something truly controversial. Dream sharing technology. Scientists are seriously exploring whether it might be possible to create technology that allows two people to share a dream space, experiencing the same dream simultaneously or sequentially. This isn't as far-fetched as it sounds. If we can decode dream content from one person's brain and identify the neural patterns that generate specific dream elements, theoretically, we could induce those patterns in another person's brain using targeted stimulation. You wouldn't be literally entering someone else's dream, but you might be able to generate similar dream content in two brains simultaneously. A 2019 experiment demonstrated a primitive version of this concept. Researchers had one person view images while their brain was scanned, then used those patterns to guide transcranial magnetic stimulation in another person's brain, causing them to perceive vague impressions of similar images. It's extremely crude, but it proves the concept is physically possible. But should we pursue this technology? Dreams serve individualized psychological functions. They process your unique memories, your specific emotional challenges, your personal narrative. Introducing someone else into that space could be psychologically intrusive in ways we can't fully anticipate. Some researchers argue that dream sharing could revolutionize empathy and communication, allowing people to truly understand each other's subjective experiences. Others warn it could create new forms of psychological violation, a kind of mental trespass more intimate and damaging than any physical invasion. Fact 84. Now we need to address the commercial dream industry that's already emerging. Numerous apps promise to help you control your dreams, remember them better, or achieve specific dream experiences. Most are based on legitimate science, dream journaling, reality checking, sleep stage detection, but some make claims that exceed current evidence. One common misconception these apps exploit: the idea that you can program specific dream content with precision. While pre-sleep suggestion and targeted dream incubation can influence dream themes, you can't order up a specific dream scenario like selecting a movie. Your dreams are generated by complex neural processes integrating multiple memory systems, emotional states, and ongoing cognitive processes. They're influenced, not programmed. Some apps claim to induce prophetic dreams, past life recall, or contact with spiritual entities. These claims have zero scientific support and prey on people's fascination with dreams. Dreams can be profound, meaningful, and psychologically significant without being supernatural. The healthiest approach to dream technology is using it to support natural processes, maintaining good sleep hygiene, facilitating dream recall through journaling, perhaps occasionally using targeted incubation for creativity, rather than trying to engineer specific experiences or achieve non-existent supernatural abilities. Fact 85. Let's explore something that represents both incredible promise and serious concern: using dream manipulation for treating mental health conditions. Several research groups are investigating whether targeted dream intervention could accelerate treatment for PTSD, phobias, depression, and anxiety disorders. The approach combines several techniques. targeted memory reactivation during sleep, playing sounds associated with therapy during specific sleep stages, transcranial stimulation to modulate emotional processing during REM, and biofeedback training to help patients recognize and modify nightmare content. Early results are promising. Some studies show accelerated fear extinction, patients overcoming phobias faster when exposure therapy is combined with sleep stage-specific interventions. PTSD patients using nightmare rescripting techniques show reduced nightmare frequency when the intervention is paired with specific sleep stage targeting. But here's the concern. We're intervening in evolved psychological processes without fully understanding their function. What if nightmares, while distressing, serve an important purpose in trauma processing? What if suppressing them prevents necessary emotional integration? We're using powerful tools with incomplete knowledge. Medical technology always faces this balance, intervening before we have complete understanding because waiting would leave people suffering. But dream intervention touches consciousness itself, the core of subjective experience. The potential for unintended consequences is profound. Fact 86. There's a fascinating philosophical question emerging from dream technology. If we can enhance dream experiences, make them more vivid, more controllable, more emotionally satisfying, would people choose to spend more time dreaming than living? We might call this the Inception problem, after the film, where characters become addicted to shared dream worlds that feel more real than reality. This isn't purely hypothetical. Already, some lucid dreamers report preferring their dream experiences to waking life. In dreams, they can fly, manipulate reality, experience impossible scenarios. Some describe feeling disappointed or even depressed upon waking, returning to a reality that feels limiting by comparison. As virtual reality and dream enhancement technology converge, we might face a future where artificial realities become so compelling that people opt out of physical reality. Some futurists see this as liberation, consciousness freed from biological constraints. Others see it as existential tragedy, abandoning the physical world and human relationships for solipsistic fantasy. But here's the deeper issue. Your dreams evolve to serve your waking life. They process emotions so you can function socially. They consolidate memories so you can navigate physical reality. They simulate threats so you can survive real dangers. If dreams become ends in themselves rather than means to support waking life, do they still serve their evolutionary function? Fact 87. Let's discuss something genuinely exciting, the potential for dream-enhanced learning and skill acquisition. Research shows that sleep, particularly REM sleep, is crucial for consolidating procedural memories, the how-to knowledge of physical skills. Combining this with targeted dream incubation could potentially accelerate learning. Imagine practicing piano during the day, then using technology to ensure you dream about piano playing that night, with your brain's offline processing optimized for consolidating exactly the skills you practiced. Early research suggests this might work. Athletes who dream about their sport show better performance. Musicians who dream about practicing show accelerated skill development. But we need to be realistic about limitations. Dreams can't teach you skills you haven't learned while awake. They can only consolidate and integrate what you've already practiced. Dreams optimize learning. They don't replace it. The most promising applications might be in accelerating expertise development in complex fields, surgery, piloting, crisis response, where simulation training combined with dream consolidation could produce more capable professionals faster. But this requires understanding how to target specific skills for dream processing, something we're only beginning to figure out. Fact 88. Our final future frontier. Fact brings us to the ultimate question. Should there be legal and ethical frameworks governing dream technology? As this technology develops, we need societal conversations about dream rights and consciousness privacy. Some propose principles. The right to dream privacy. Your dream content should be protected like medical records or therapy conversations. The right to unmodified dreams. You shouldn't be subjected to dream manipulation without informed consent. The right to disconnect. You should be able to opt out of dream monitoring or intervention technologies. But enforcement is complex. Dreams occur in your own brain. If you consent to technology that records or influences dreams, are you waiving privacy? If the technology benefits you medically or creatively, should it be regulated differently than recreational use? Different countries will answer these questions differently, creating a patchwork of dream technology policies. As with all transformative technologies, genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, brain-computer interfaces, we're developing capabilities faster than ethical frameworks to govern them. The parallel worlds within you, which evolved over millions of years as private psychological spaces, are becoming technologically accessible. The consequences will be profound, spanning from revolutionary medical treatments to new forms of art and communication to potential violations of mental privacy we can barely imagine. So we've journeyed to the frontier where technology meets the dreamscape, where ancient mysteries of consciousness encounter cutting-edge neuroscience, where the parallel universes within you are being mapped, decoded, and transformed. But all of this exploration, through history, science, creativity, shadow, healing, and technology, brings us to one final question. What does it all mean? After understanding how dreams work, what they do, and where they might lead us, we need to integrate these insights into something practical, something you can carry forward. So, let's bring this full circle, synthesizing everything we've discovered into a coherent understanding of who you are when you dream, why these nightly journeys through parallel worlds matter, and how you can honor and optimize this remarkable gift of consciousness that unfolds within you every single night. We've traveled far together through the parallel universes within you. We've explored the gateway where consciousness meets dreams, examined the architecture that builds these nightly worlds, discovered how dreams forge memory and ignite creativity, witnessed the multiple realities you inhabit simultaneously, confronted the shadow realms of nightmare, experienced the healing chambers where psychological wounds are mended, and glimpse the technological future where dreams and machines converge. Now, as we approach the end of this journey, it's time to integrate everything into wisdom you can carry forward. Because understanding dreams isn't just academic knowledge, it's understanding yourself at the deepest level, recognizing that you are far more than your waking consciousness alone. Fact 89. Let's start with something that ties everything together: the relationship between dreams and your sense of self. Philosopher Thomas Metzinger argues that your self isn't a thing, but a process, a continuously updated model your brain maintains. During waking hours, this model is constrained by sensory input and social expectations. You maintain a relatively stable identity because the world reflects you back to yourself consistently. But in dreams, these constraints dissolve. Your self-model becomes fluid, experimental, exploratory. You can be different ages, inhabit different bodies, possess different knowledge, even fragment into multiple characters simultaneously. Some neuroscientists propose that dreams are where your brain explores the possibility space of identity, testing alternative configurations of self, maintaining cognitive flexibility, preventing your identity from becoming too rigid. This explains why people who remember and engage with their dreams often report feeling more psychologically flexible and creative. They're regularly experiencing themselves as more than their waking identity, maintaining awareness of the vast potential within them. You're not just one self. You're a probability cloud of potential selves, and dreams allow you to explore that space. Fact 90. Now, let's address something profound that appears across cultures and throughout history: the concept of big dreams. Carl Jung distinguished between ordinary dreams, processing daily experiences, routine emotional maintenance, and what he called numinous dreams that feel qualitatively different. These are dreams of extraordinary vividness, emotional intensity, and lasting impact. Dreams that feel more real than waking life. Dreams you remember decades later with perfect clarity. Anthropologist Roger Ivar Lohman studied dream cultures in Papua New Guinea and found that indigenous peoples make similar distinctions. They have ordinary dreams and then what they call true dreams or power dreams. Experiences so profound they're treated as revelatory events that shape life decisions. Modern neuroscience doesn't have a complete explanation for why some dreams feel fundamentally different from others. Activity levels vary, but that doesn't fully capture the subjective distinction. Some researchers propose these are moments when different neural systems achieve unusual synchronization, creating experiences of integration and coherence that exceed normal waking consciousness. Whether you interpret these as spiritual experiences, peak states of consciousness, or simply rare optimal brain configurations, the subjective impact is real. These dreams change people. They provide direction, meaning, healing, and insight that can redirect entire lives. Have you ever had a dream that felt fundamentally different from all others? One that stayed with you and changed how you see yourself or the world? Fact 91. Let's talk about collective dreaming and the strange patterns that emerge when you examine dreams across populations. Certain dream themes appear universally, being chased, falling, flying, teeth falling out, appearing naked in public, being unprepared for an exam. These occur across all cultures, ages, and historical periods. Some themes clearly reflect universal human experiences and vulnerabilities. Being chased maps to predator avoidance. Falling reflects gravitational hazards. Social exposure nightmares reflect our deep need for social belonging. But some universal dreams are harder to explain through simple evolutionary logic. Why do people across cultures dream of teeth falling out? Freudian interpretation suggested sexual symbolism. Modern theories propose it reflects anxiety about physical aging or loss of power. But the universality suggests something deeper in how our brains process vulnerability and bodily integrity. Flying dreams might be the brain's simulation of spatial navigation freed from physical constraints. Or they might represent feelings of mastery and freedom. The specific interpretation matters less than recognizing that certain dream experiences appear to be built into human consciousness architecture. We all walk through parallel worlds that, despite being uniquely generated by individual brains, share remarkable similarities in structure and content. There's a dreamscape that exists not in any physical location, but in the collective neural architecture of humanity. Fact 92. Now we need to discuss something you might have heard about but rarely see explained clearly: prophetic or precognitive dreams. Throughout history, people have reported dreaming about events before they occurred. Lincoln reportedly dreamed of his assassination. Many survivors of disasters report having dreams warning them days before the events. Skeptics dismiss these as coincidence, confirmation bias, or post-event memory distortion. And there's truth to these critiques. You dream about hundreds of scenarios every year. Occasionally, something similar to a dream will occur in waking life purely by chance. You remember the hits and forget the thousands of misses. But there's a more interesting explanation that doesn't require supernatural precognition. Your brain is constantly making predictions about future threats and opportunities based on subtle pattern recognition. You might consciously notice someone's suspicious behavior, but not fully process it. Your unconscious mind, however, picks up dozens of microsignals, body language, speech patterns, contextual inconsistencies, and generates a threat prediction that surfaces in a dream. When the predicted event occurs, it feels prophetic, but it's actually sophisticated pattern matching and probabilistic forecasting that your conscious mind wasn't aware of. Your dreams aren't seeing the future, They're reading the present with extraordinary sensitivity and extrapolating probable futures. This doesn't diminish the value of such dreams. If your unconscious mind is detecting real patterns and warning you through dreams, paying attention could be genuinely protective. The mechanism is psychology, not metaphysics, but the practical value is real. Fact 93. Let's explore the Tibetan Buddhist practice of dream yoga more deeply, because it represents one of humanity's most sophisticated engagements with dream consciousness. Tibetan monks have practiced techniques for becoming lucid in dreams for over 1,000 years. But their purpose isn't entertainment or wish fulfillment, it's spiritual awakening. The logic is profound. If you can recognize you're dreaming while asleep, you develop a skill that transfers to waking life. You begin questioning whether your waking experience is also a kind of dream, a construction of consciousness rather than direct perception of reality. This isn't meant to make you doubt reality in a destabilizing way, but to cultivate deep awareness of how your mind constructs experience. Modern neuroscience validates aspects of this practice. Studies show that people who practice meditation and lucid dreaming show increased metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your own mental processes. They're less trapped in automatic reactions, more capable of choosing responses rather than being driven by impulses. The parallel worlds of dreams become training grounds for consciousness itself. By learning to be aware within dreams, you're cultivating a quality of awareness that enhances every aspect of waking life. Greater presence, reduced reactivity, increased ability to recognize when you're caught in unhelpful mental patterns. Fact 94. Now let's discuss something practical. Sleep hygiene for optimal dreaming. If you want to support healthy dream function, emotional processing, creativity, memory consolidation, psychological healing, certain practices matter deeply. First, consistency. Your circadian rhythm thrives on regularity. Going to bed and waking at consistent times, even on weekends, optimizes your sleep architecture. You'll cycle through stages more efficiently, spending appropriate time in both deep sleep and REM. Second, darkness. Real darkness, not just dim lights. Light exposure suppresses melatonin and disrupts circadian rhythms. In our modern world of screens and artificial lighting, most people never experience true darkness. Your pineal gland needs darkness signals to properly regulate sleep timing. Third, temperature. Your body temperature needs to drop to initiate sleep. A cool bedroom, around 65-68 degrees Celsius or 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, facilitates this. Many sleep problems are simply overheating. Fourth, the pre-sleep hour. What you do in the hour before bed dramatically influences dream content and sleep quality. Avoid intense emotional content, anxiety-inducing news, or stimulating activities. Engage with calming, meaningful content. This is when dream incubation is most effective, gently focusing on questions or themes you'd like your dreams to process. Fifth, substances. Minimize or eliminate alcohol, cannabis, and unnecessary medications that suppress REM sleep. If you need sleep aids, work with a doctor to find options that don't devastate your sleep architecture. Fact 95. Here's a practice that can transform your relationship with dreams. Committed dream journaling. Not occasionally, but as a daily practice. Keep a journal beside your bed. The moment you wake, before moving, before checking your phone, capture whatever fragments of dreams you remember. At first, you might remember nothing, or only vague impressions. That's normal. But within 2 weeks of consistent practice, most people find their recall dramatically improves. You're training your brain that dreams matter, that you're paying attention, and your brain responds by making dreams more accessible to waking consciousness. Don't just record narrative. Capture emotions, colors, atmospheres, recurring symbols. Over months, patterns emerge. You'll notice when certain themes appear during specific life circumstances. You'll identify your personal dream language, the metaphors and symbols your unique unconscious uses to communicate. This isn't about dream interpretation books that claim universal symbols. Your dream language is uniquely yours, shaped by your experiences, culture, and neural architecture. The only way to learn it is through sustained observation. Fact 96. Let's talk about something rarely discussed: the relationship between creative work and dream content. Artists, writers, musicians who engage seriously with their creative practice often report that their dreams become more vivid, complex, and narratively coherent. It's as if exercising creativity during waking hours trains the same neural systems that generate dreams, creating a positive feedback loop. The novelist Graham Greene kept dream journals his entire life and often built stories directly from dream narratives. Filmmaker Akira Kurosawa described his dreams as his most important creative resource. Composer Bela Bartok transcribed melodies that came to him in dreams. But the relationship goes both ways. Engaging with your dreams through journaling, discussion, or artistic expression appears to enhance waking creativity. You're essentially building stronger bridges between conscious and unconscious processing, allowing creative material to flow more freely in both directions. Your parallel dream worlds aren't separate from your waking creative life. They're the underground river that feeds the surface stream, the invisible source of innovation and artistic vision. Fact 97. Now something important about dreams and relationships. Sharing dreams creates profound intimacy. Many couples who maintain practices of sharing dreams each morning report feeling more connected, more understanding of each other's inner worlds. You're granting access to experiences and vulnerabilities that are typically completely private, but dream sharing requires skill and sensitivity. The worst thing you can do is impose interpretations on someone else's dream. Oh, that means you're afraid of commitment, or that's obviously about your mother. Such interpretations are almost always projections, not insights. Better practice. Listen to dreams as you would poetry. Receive them with curiosity and respect. Ask questions. How did that feel? What stood out to you? Rather than offering analyses. Let the dreamer discover their own meanings. For parents, listening to children's dreams with this kind of respectful attention teaches emotional intelligence and creates safety for sharing inner experiences. Children learn that their subjective experiences matter, that the adults in their lives are interested in understanding their inner worlds. Fact 98. Let's address something crucial. What to do about chronic sleep problems. If you're experiencing persistent insomnia, frequent nightmares, excessive daytime sleepiness, or signs of sleep disorders like apnea or restless leg syndrome, dream optimization isn't your first priority. Treating the underlying disorder is. Sleep disorders affect over 70 million Americans and hundreds of millions globally. These aren't lifestyle problems you can fix with better habits. They're medical conditions requiring professional diagnosis and treatment. Sleep apnea, where breathing repeatedly stops during sleep, can be life-threatening if untreated. If you snore loudly, gasp during sleep, have morning headaches, or experience overwhelming sleepiness during the day despite adequate sleep opportunity, see a sleep medicine specialist. If you have chronic insomnia lasting more than 3 months, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia has better long-term outcomes than medication. The parallel worlds of dreams can only function properly if the foundation of healthy sleep is present. Don't romanticize sleep problems or assume they'll resolve on their own. Get help. Fact 99. Now we arrive at something that brings together science and wonder. The recognition that every night, when you close your eyes, you're engaging in the most extraordinary experience available to consciousness. You're not just resting, you're traveling through infinite parallel universes. Each one is real in its moment as any waking experience. You're processing emotional complexity that exceeds your waking capacity. You're making creative connections that your logical mind would never discover. You're healing psychological wounds through mechanisms we're only beginning to understand. You're maintaining your sense of self while simultaneously exploring radical alternatives to that self. You're experiencing what it means to be conscious without the constraints of physics, logic, or time. And you're doing all of this every single night, mostly unremembered, mostly unappreciated, mostly dismissed as just dreams. But there's no just about it. Dreams are consciousness revealing its fundamental nature as a reality generation system, showing you that your experience of reality, whether waking or sleeping, is always constructed, always created by your brain's extraordinary capacity to build worlds. Fact 100. Our final fact, the culmination of everything we've explored. You are not one consciousness living one life. You are multiple modes of consciousness, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, each with its own characteristics, functions, and forms of awareness. You are parallel worlds existing within a single biological system. You are, quite literally, a multiverse. Every night when you fall asleep, you die to one reality and are born into another. Every morning when you wake, you die to that reality and return to this one. Both are real, both matter, both shape who you become. The question isn't whether dreams are important. The question is whether you'll honor them, engage with them, learn from them, or continue to dismiss 1/3 of your existence as irrelevant fantasy. The parallel worlds within you are gifts, evolutionary gifts that took millions of years to develop, psychological gifts that maintain your mental health and cognitive function, creative gifts that generate innovations and insights, spiritual gifts that connect you to dimensions of experience beyond ordinary consciousness. These worlds exist within you right now, waiting to be explored, not with expensive technology, not with exotic substances, not with esoteric techniques, simply with attention, respect, and willingness to honor the full spectrum of your consciousness. We've journeyed together through history, science, psychology, and philosophy. We've met chemists who dream molecular structures, writers who dream novels, mystics who dreamed enlightenment. We've examined the architecture of sleep, the function of nightmares, the healing power of REM. We've explored where technology is taking us and where ancient wisdom has already been. But all of this knowledge serves one purpose: helping you recognize that you are more vast, more complex, more extraordinary than you typically recognize. You contain universes. You generate realities. You are a cosmos of consciousness, and every night when you close your eyes, you become an explorer of infinite inner space. So, here's my invitation. Starting now, beginning with your very next sleep, treat your dreams as what they are, not meaningless noise, not random neural static, but genuine experiences in authentic parallel realities that you create and inhabit. Keep a journal, pay attention. Notice patterns. Be curious about what your unconscious mind is trying to tell you, show you, or heal within you. Your dreams are messages from your deeper self, from the parallel you who exists beyond waking consciousness, from the vast intelligence that operates beneath awareness, working always for your well-being, your growth, your wholeness. We are, each of us, living in multiple worlds simultaneously. The tragedy is that most people only acknowledge one. The opportunity is that you can choose differently. You can honor all the worlds within you. You can become a conscious explorer of the multiverse that is your own mind. Thank you for traveling with me through these parallel universes. Thank you for bringing your attention, your curiosity, your willingness to see sleep and dreams not as wasted time, but as essential dimensions of human existence. Thank you for recognizing that consciousness is far stranger, far more wonderful than we typically acknowledge. When you lay down to sleep in the coming nights, remember, you're not ending your day. You're beginning another kind of journey entirely. You're not leaving consciousness behind. You're entering alternate modes of consciousness that have their own wisdom, their own gifts, their own essential roles in making you who you are. So, tonight when you close your eyes and drift into those parallel worlds, go with awareness, go with gratitude, go with recognition that you're about to experience something absolutely extraordinary. The nightly miracle of consciousness exploring itself, creating infinite realities from pure neural potential, proving that you are far more than a body moving through one timeline in one universe. You are parallel worlds. You are infinite possibilities. You are the explorer and the explored, the dreamer and the dream. Sweet dreams, fellow travelers. May your parallel worlds be vivid, meaningful, and filled with wonder. And may you wake each morning carrying forward the gifts that your sleeping consciousness worked all night to give you. We'll meet again soon with more stories from the frontiers of science and consciousness. Until then, remember, the greatest unexplored territory isn't in outer space or the ocean depths. It's in the infinite inner space that unfolds behind your closed eyes every single night. The universe within you awaits. Sleep well, dream deep, and never forget. You are so much more than you think you are.